Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Commission on the Status of Women. Item 1, call to order at 6:30. We are called to order. Item 2, may we please have a roll call?
Vice Chair Devine? Here. Commissioner Kachafian? Commissioner Kavanian? Commissioner Lamel?
Here.
Commissioner Manasarian?
Here.
Commissioner Panlaki?
Here.
Commissioner Sobey?
Here.
Commissioner Walker? And Chair Curlin.
Present. Item 3, may we please have a report on the posting of the agenda?
The agenda for the October 13th meeting was posted on the bulletin board on or before October 10th.
Item 4, introductions and presentations. Item A is Sarah Rondon Leak from the Los Angeles County Bar Association Domestic Violence Project.
And if we could invite Ms. Rondon Leak to come right up to the podium. She's going to be sharing some of the work of the Los Angeles County Bar Association with regards to their domestic violence project at the Pasadena Courthouse, as well as the LA Courthouse.
As well, Bill. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. I am part, as you said, of the LA County Bar Association Domestic Violence Project. We run the Domestic Violence Project in the LA Superior Courthouse and, most importantly for your community, in the Pasadena Superior Courthouse. We are the closest courthouse that has a domestic violence project to you here. The next one would be out in Van Nuys at the present time. What we do is help victims of violence that come into the courthouse that are in need of some form of legal assistance, basically obtaining restraining orders when they come in. I don't know how many of you have seen what a restraining order packet looks like, but you are talking about 40 forms that need to be filled out. Most of these victims that come in, first of all, are in an emotional situation. Many of them don't read or write. Many of them don't know the language, or they're able to communicate in the language but aren't able to write, certainly aren't able to fill out legal forms. We have 3 staff members that rotate between LA and Pasadena, as well as about 100 volunteers, attorneys, law students, and paralegals that are there in the courthouse to assist these victims when they come in. We will take them back into a room. We'll listen to their story. We will fill out the forms for them. We will prepare their declaration for them, and we get them ready to go up before the judge to have a hearing on whether or not to obtain the restraining order. We will make sure that they have a place to go. We make sure if they can't go back to their home safely, that they'll get into shelters. We deal with local police departments. That's our big push this year, is going out and training, doing roll calls for all our local agencies, making sure that they know what changes are with restraining orders, what needs to be happening, what they hopefully are doing with these victims when they get them. Make sure that they know that they can refer them to the courthouse, that there is someone there to help them, because you don't know how many victims walk into that courthouse and we literally find them in the hallway, because it is a terrifying experience for them to walk into a courthouse with so many people. We're fortunate in Pasadena, it's a little bit smaller, but if they happen to make their way down to the LA courthouse, because some people do get referred down there, you're talking thousands of people wandering around this huge building, and they're trying to find one room in order to get a restraining order so that they can go back home and feel safe. We try to inform the police of that. We try and get out to the community. We try to get out to local hospitals to let them know that we are there. Wanted to briefly just, show you 2 differences. This is someone that tried to fill out a restraining order on their own. The judge just could not read this. I mean, it just was not going to happen. He didn't know what was going on. We took her back. We were able to type it up and figure out there really was a lot more than what she had put, was that she had gotten pushed by him and down. No, prior to that, he had held a knife to her. He had raped her. There was a lot more that was going on. I can't stress the importance of having those attorneys and law students in the courthouse to help them, and the importance of having the community know that we are there, we're willing to help. We are nonprofit. Lana asked me to bring a wish list out with me, which I think she was going to pass out, for anyone that can help us. The smallest things help. You'll see on our wish list we have Kleenex, cartons of Kleenex that we can use. We go through Kleenex like crazy because obviously we have a lot of emotional people that come through. We need juice boxes for children. It's a long day in court for the children to sit there. The downtown LA courthouse fortunately has a children's waiting room for children that are potty trained only. Pasadena Courthouse does not have a children, so they need to sit there in our office. They need to go up and sit in the hallway outside of courtrooms, so any kind of little entertainment that we can provide for the kids, any kind of snacks that we can provide always helps. There's a lot of other things on there that if anybody is able to assist us. And that's it this evening.
Question?
Sure.
What, do you have any other languages that you can assist in besides English?
Spanish is always. We always have a Spanish-speaking. All of the staff is required to be Spanish-speaking, so one of us will always be there that's Spanish-speaking. Because we have 100 volunteers, we basically could cover any language. It just may not be on any particular day. We have volunteers that speak most Asian languages. We have volunteers that do speak Armenian. We have volunteers that will speak some of the languages that aren't as common, and they surprise me by being able to do that. The problem is that they're not always there. Hopefully we can call them in. If there's an interpreter in the courthouse, we're able to do that. We have some fabulous clerks that work in the Pasadena courthouse that I can run down to the clerk's office and say, could you come just help me for a minute? And they're able to do that. The court is, very willing to try and help victims, especially in this situation.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Devine?
What is the path to you? How does a woman get to you?
Various ways. There isn't one specific ways. I've heard, so many different things. Number one, word of mouth. I have many of them who had a friend or a family member in that situation that were told, oh, go to the courthouse, there's somebody there. The other largest is the police departments. Police departments are becoming very aware that there are people in the courthouse that will assist these victims, especially, once they go out, they're only able to do so much there, especially if the batterer has fled. So they'll tell them, tomorrow morning, go into the courthouse. There's someone there to assist you. They'll fill out the paperwork for you. Other than that, the people will just stroll into the courthouse and, say, I need to file a restraining order. The clerks say, Pasadena, go to room 100. Downtown, go to, Department 8, and there's someone there that will help you out.
I have a comment. You mentioned that you have volunteers. How can someone volunteer, and do you teach your volunteers to help the victims with filling out their forms?
Terrific, because Lucy here just took our training. We have 3 trainings a year, and they're at various times. Our next one, thank you for pointing that out, is January 27th, 2009. They are in the evenings. For attorneys, they do get MCLE. The credit for it. Law students come to us from a lot of the law schools downtown and in the various areas because they will also get school credit. Most of the law schools now are requiring some type of pro bono work while they're in law school, so they will come to us. A lot of the large law firms send their paralegals. We will provide, it's a 3.5-hour training. You come in, it's in the evening. You will hear victims speak. You will hear, we always have a judge from one of the courthouses that handles domestic violence. And off the top of my head, I can't think of who our next one is, but I know she is from the criminal courts, so she handles domestic violence on that end. And you get thrown in, exposed to DV, and then we go through the forms and show you how to fill them out. First time you come into the courthouse, we also walk you through it too, because it's, even as a volunteer, it's an intense experience to be walking through. So yes, everyone is trained. Anybody is welcome. I left my information there to contact the LA County Bar.
Yeah, tell us the number.
213. Let's see, let's give you a good one. Let's give you the local one. 626-356-5776. Since we're in this area.
You want to give it one more time?
626-356-5776. They could ask for me. My name is Sarah, again, and we'll be happy. We need volunteers. The more, the better.
Okay. And that was January 27th is
January
the next
27th.
one. Okay.
Correct.
Please let Lana know when the next dates are so we can keep that.
Oh, absolutely. They're about every 3 to 4 months we will, and I will absolutely let her know.
Thank you.
Are there still fee waivers available for indigent clients?
As far as,
The filing fees?
because I was
and
about to say, there
application
is no fees any longer.
Okay.
There is no fees for filing restraining orders. There is no fees to have the sheriff serve restraining orders. Since our project is nonprofit, we ask for donations. Some victims are more than happy to give us, $20. Some are not. We don't require it. We don't ask for it. We'll take anything. But there is no fees. They can walk into the courthouse and obtain a restraining order for free. There's no fees for interpreters now for domestic violence. That was a big thing at the time of their hearing. Once their case is filed, the court no longer can charge a fee to have an interpreter there. So that becomes a big issue for them. They do need one when they first come in order to get the restraining order, but once they're up before the judge, if their English is shaky, the court must provide an interpreter for them.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, great. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
very much.
Item B on our introductions and presentations, Glendale Public Library, One Book, One Glendale, 2008.
I'd like at this moment to introduce Mary Alice Wallum and Pat Zeider, two of our fierce defenders of the Constitution and freedom of speech, otherwise known as librarians.
And one of the questions is, why are we here to talk about our one book? And I think a better question is, why weren't we here last year to talk about our first One Book, One Glendale? One Book, One Glendale is a citywide reading program, and we encourage people in Glendale to read the same book title at the same time, participate in book discussion groups that take place throughout the city, go to all kinds of programs relating to the themes of the book, and then meet the author. And our book, which Pat is going to talk about in a moment, certainly has as one of its themes about women and work, women in family, women in economics, women in culture. So Pat is going to tell you about our book. The goal of One Book, One Glendale is to not just promote reading and encourage people to come together and read, but to also start a community conversation about one topic, and that is one book. And so we have, our program has two components. We have a teen adult book, and then we have a book for children. And so we'll talk about both books. The whole idea for One Book, One City started in Seattle in the 1990s, and it was a program called If All Seattle Were to Read the Same Book. And it has spread. There are hundreds of cities throughout the United States that have one-book programs. There are universities and colleges that have one-book programs. There are houses of worship. There are corporations. It's such a great idea to bring people together over one book. In a moment, I'm going to tell you about our programs in our Reader's Guide. And did I give you enough for everyone to have one? But Pat is going to tell you about our books this year.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having us. We do have a couple of slides, but I don't know if we can get them up or not. I brought copies of our book. The adult teen title that we've chosen this year is Enrique's Journey by Sonia Nazario. Yes. Okay. This book was written as a series of articles in the LA Times in 2002, or that's when it began, and then it was converted into a book. Sonia Nazario was working for the Times at that time, and she won a Pulitzer Prize for this story. A lot of parents in Central America immigrate to the U.S. in order to provide better for their children. And this is the story of, it begins with a woman who immigrates from Honduras to the U.S. to send money back to her two young children who remain in Honduras. And eventually her son, Enrique, when he's a teenager, decides to follow his mother. He hasn't seen her since he was 5 years old. So he travels up to the United States from Honduras, mostly on the tops of trains, buses, various means of transportation. It's very dangerous, very treacherous journey. So the book is the story of his journey to find his mother, and then when he arrives in the U.S., it talks a little bit about what happens after he gets here and how reunions between parents and their children who they've left behind don't always go smoothly. Okay, we also have a children's title. This is a picture of the author, Sonia Nazario, the author of Enrique's Journey. She recreated some of the journey on her own in order to do her research. So she got permission to write on the tops of some of the trains. And she's going to be speaking at the library. Mary Alice will tell you about that. Our children's title is Any Small Goodness by Toni Johnston. And Toni Johnston is a local author who lives in San Marino. She'll be appearing at the library also. This is a fiction book for about 4th through 8th grade readers. And it's a story of Arturo, a young boy who is living in East LA. And it's the story of his growing up, about he and his friends.
Very excited this year because we are partnering with Glendale Community College, and the college has chosen Enrique's Journey as their campus-wide read. And so the programs will take place not only throughout Glendale but also on campus at Glendale. This is our reader's guide, and everyone has a copy of it, and we have some in back. And on the last page are all our programs. And, you know, it's so interesting. Lana was telling me about a book she just read and was all excited about it. And people get very excited about books they read. And so far, the 2 books that we've chosen here in our second year of One Book have been about topics that are provocative. Last year we read When the Emperor Was Divine, about the Japanese internment. We want to choose books that people want to discuss. And so the first thing that I want to tell you about is our book discussions. We kicked off our book discussions on the patio at Whole Foods. So we met there to talk about Enrique's Journey. We'll be meeting at 5 different libraries, and we'll also be meeting at Barnes & Noble in the Americana. And, you know, it's so interesting at the library or when I go out and talk to have people come up and say, I'm reading it. You know, Sharon Weissman, whom you all know, is a tutor for the library. She's a literacy tutor, and she and her student are reading it. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. You know, the topics in Enrique's Journey, you know, women who come illegally to the United States because they need to send money home, children who come up, people who work as domestics. These are hot topics, and we want people to be able to discuss them. And one of the programs that we're doing is on this Thursday, we've invited Gustavo Arellano. And if you don't know him, he writes the Ask a Mexican column. And people ask him very provocative questions, including about illegal immigration. So he'll be here. We're going to have an arts program at the Brand Library about migration. And Glendale Community College is having a series of events, and I attended their Women and Work program last Thursday, and that was very interesting. And all of this reading and all of this discussion and all of these programs lead up to the first week in November when Sonia Nazario comes to Glendale. She'll be at the Glendale Central Library on Wednesday, November the 5th. She will be at Hoover High School talking to high school kids, which was a terrific event last year with our author, and then she'll be at Glendale Community College. So we encourage everyone to read Enrique's Journey. The library has hundreds of copies that you can check out. It's on sale if you like to own your book. And come and participate in this community conversation about this one book. If you've got kids, we've got a great kids book this year also. So we hope that you will participate, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any questions about One Book.
I just want to support this great program. Since I'm a professor at GCC, whenever I am teaching freshman comp during the fall semester, I always have my students involved in this program. They get to talk to the author, they get to have their book signed. It makes reading real. It makes a story like this very real to them. And since so many,
some of your kids last year come to our...
That's right. And since so many of your books have that immigrant experience, certainly all the students in Glendale can relate to that. So I just so back and support this wonderful program.
Thank you for inviting us. So we hope we'll see you. Yes.
Is there a website where the community can check the events that's happening?
They can just Google the Glendale Public Library. Glendale, California. There's a Glendale, Arizona also. And we have all the information that's in our reader's guide on our website.
Thank you so much.
I have one more comment. I just read on your newsletter that there's a book fair Saturday and Sunday at the Americana, and that if anyone who purchases a book mentions the Glendale Public Library, a portion of the proceeds goes to the library. That's great. So that would be the time to make that purchase.
Yeah, thank you very much for mentioning that.
Your little plug. Anything to help the public library.
And actually, the money will fund 2009 One Book, One Glendale. So
That's even better. Okay.
Do you know if anyone notified, did you have any outreach to the school district so that teachers of the right grade? Because I think as a teacher, this would be great.
We have classes at 4 different Glendale high schools reading the book, at Hoover High, Daly High, Crescenta Valley High, and Glendale High. And I have to give a hats off to the Kiwanis Club because they gave a very generous donation, and we used those funds to buy books for the classroom for GUSD. So we do have the high schools participating.
About how many students will be reading that? Do you have any idea?
At Hoover, about 200.
Wow.
And at Crescenta Valley, I think there's going to be about 110. And we have 2 classes at Glendale High, and I think 3 classes at Daly. So we've expanded. Last year we did 2 high schools. This year 4 high schools. So
Maybe
it's
next
great.
year we could do the elementary schools too.
And, we actually did the elementary schools last year, and this year we had a little bit of staffing cutback, so we were unable to do the elementary schools, but hopefully next year.
Thank you.
How about the parents? Do they participate in reading the books and exchanging ideas?
Well, at the library, what we've done is we have displays. We encourage people when they come in. Nobody gets out of the library alive without us encouraging them, and even to read with their kids, be they college age or high school age. So we encourage the parents to read. It really is. It's a wonderful activity. Last year, at my particular branch, the Casa Verdugo branch, we had some sets of mothers and daughters who read the one book, and that was a wonderful experience.
There'll be a lot of parents participating when the author of the children's book comes to the library on November 15th. They'll be bringing their kids. There were a lot of parents and kids who came.
Great. Very good. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you. Good night.
Next item on our agenda, item 4, introductions and presentations. C, Wanda Wheeler from the Glendale Memorial Medical Center, Marcia Ray, breast cancer supervisor and chief technologist.
Hi.
Did I see you last night at Wine and Roses?
You sure did.
I
Oh, great time had by all.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm Wanda Wheeler, and I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak here with you today. Which button? Yeah, that one. Okay, great. Thank you. As it was said before, I'm the managing supervisor at the Marcia Ray Breast Center, and I'm the chief technologist also. And I'm a certified breast self-exam trainer, and I've been in the field of mammography for about 14 years. I'm going to give you a little overview of what who and what the Marcia Ray Breast Center is all about. We're a full-service breast care facility. We offer high-quality screening and diagnostic services, and we're accredited with the American College of Radiology. We're certified by the Federal Drug Administration, and we've been designated as a breast imaging center of excellence by the American College of Radiology. Programs that we administer are the Coleman Diagnostic Breast Services for Women Under 40, which provides financial help for low-income women under the age of 40, and for breast exams and procedures all the way through a diagnosis. The cancer detection program is for women over the age of 40, and this is administered through us by the County of Los Angeles, and this provides financial help for low-income women over the age of 40. We're also a part of a wig exchange programs for women who have been diagnosed with cancer and are going through chemotherapy, and it's in partnership with St. Michael's and All Angels Episcopal Church in Studio City. We also have what's called a softer mammogram program, where we provide mammogram cushions for patients who ask for them. And we produce an annual breast cancer survivor celebration group. That brings us to our staff. Our staff are compassionate and caring. Our technologists have over 175 years of experience combined in mammography and do over 15,000 exams and procedures each year. They're all certified radiologic technologists with additional specialized training in mammography. And many also have other types of specialized training in ultrasound, fluoroscopy, trauma radiography, biopsy, venipuncture, and other specialties. And we have quite a few bilingual staff members. That brings us to our topic today, which is early detection, facts, and benefits. One of the things that people ask me exactly, what is breast cancer? And what it really is, it's a malignant growth. It's in the breast tissue. It starts out as a cell that loses its primary function. It begins to multiply uncontrollably and then begins to crowd out the normal cells, and the cancer takes over. Now, because they don't really have a primary function, they don't stick well together. So they begin to break off. They travel through the circulatory system, and this is how they begin to implant in other parts of the body, and that's what we call metastasis. There are other facts about breast cancer. First of all, being a woman and our increasing age is the highest risk factor. For also over 70% of breast cancers occur in women with no family history or other risk factors. So that means that if you've got 10 ladies in a room who all have breast cancer, that means that only 3 of them have any risk factor, and that includes family history. So it's most important to remember that being a woman, and just as we get older, that's when our risk increases. And as we get older, it increases even more, so that a woman of 70 is almost twice as likely to develop breast cancer as a woman of 50. So how can we reduce our risk? Well, regular screening, of course, with your clinical breast exam and mammography, but also increased exercise reduces the risk of all cancers, and that includes breast cancer. There are many dietary recommendations, such as our low-fat, high-fiber diet, along with the 5 to 9 servings of vegetables. And managing one's body weight and the body mass index, of course, helps along. Also, having a healthy lifestyle. That is, in general, it helps our immune system, and it reduces the incidence of disease, including cancer. Having increased stress can compromise our health and contribute towards the incidence of cancer. Also, hormone therapy has been found for more than 5 years has been associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. So women need to evaluate the pros and cons with their physician. There are benefits to early detection. It's a better prognosis. A 5-year survival rate is 97 to 98% in breast cancer that has not metastasized. Early treatment options for early breast cancer are less invasive and give you more options for electing treatment, and is most likely able to preserve the breast tissue and can lead to a better quality of life. And the prognosis for early stage breast cancer is so good that women are able to have an improved quality of life with a lot less fear of reoccurrence. The treatment of early-stage breast cancer is far more cost-effective than late-stage disease as well. So here's our triad, early detection triad. Starts out with clinical breast exam, self-breast exam, and mammography. Let's start out with the clinical breast exam. That's going to be done annually. You're going to do that with your physician, your licensed clinician. It's going to take a health history, going to do a visual inspection. Also, it's going to do a breast tissue examination and document these things. Next is your breast self-exam, and that should start out at about age 20 and should be done monthly. Your breast tissue starts out at your collarbone and goes down to your lower bra line, starts at your center of your breast and out to the flank, all the way in, goes into your axilla or underarm. So the reason why you need to know that is because when you do your own exam, you want to make sure that you cover that entire area. You also want to take a look in the mirror and look and see whether or not you see dimpling, if there's any retraction, if there's an orange peel effect to your breast. So you want to make sure and take a look at all these areas. These things can help you then be able to take it back to your doctor and be able to show him or her what it is that you see, and they'll be able to give you practical advice and look further. So remember, this should be done monthly, and as you do it monthly, you get more confident with it because you begin to know what your breasts feel like and if there's any new problems. So next we're going to move on to the mammogram. The guidelines for mammography is annually or biannually, and that's something you'll discuss with your doctor between the ages of 40 and 49. After age 50, it's suggested that you do it annually. It may be earlier if you have a family member who has had a close relative who's had breast cancer at an earlier age. It's usually 10 years before your relative, so that if your mom had breast cancer at 35, then you would start mammography at 25. Patients have concerns about mammography. Sometimes they worry that it's going to be painful. Well, you may feel some pressure and perhaps a little discomfort, but the most important thing for you to do is just relax your muscles and follow along with your technologist. And she's specially trained to position your breasts in such a way that she can get all of your breast tissue. That's real important. Many centers now offer a cushion, as we do, to help make that mammogram a little bit more comfortable. A lot of times people are afraid of the radiation. Well, the fact is you're not going to get any more exposure than you would on a cross-country flight on a commercial airplane. Fear. Many people said, "Oh, we're going to find something." Well, as we explained earlier, earlier detection is the best thing. It's more important than the little pain or discomfort you're going to find, and and the cost and so forth of having later stage cancer found. There's an embarrassment. I'm a little embarrassed. Don't want to really be seen by someone else. Well, the technologist is trained on how to minimize that. The cost I mentioned earlier, we have a Coleman Foundation grant, and also there's early detection programs that we spoke about. That what's going to take care of that cost. Access, well, your provider will know where to send you, and then, of course, here in Glendale, we're right down the street, and we'll be happy to see you. So when you schedule your mammogram, you're going to schedule where your clinician asks you to go. And then you're going to avoid scheduling a week prior to your menstrual cycle if you're still menstruating. You can consider taking an NSAID or like an Advil or an aspirin if you have extremely tender breasts. You want to communicate your concerns at the time of scheduling. Some things can be handled if they know ahead of time. And you want to wear a two-piece outfit. It makes it comfortable, and you don't have to worry about being overly exposed. 40 over 40, this is important. There are 4 of every 10 women 40 and older has not had a mammogram in the past year. I can attempt, of course, to send the message out to women through this presentation, but each of you can be very effective messengers of this information you're hearing today. So just please tell your loved ones what you've learned today and encourage them to seek out their mammograms, because mammography saves lives. And are there any questions?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation. One question I have, the wig exchange, that's with St. Michael's, and how does that work?
Well, actually, you come in, give a call to us. Marianne Robertson is the one who's handling that at our center, and we have are wigs that have been donated from other cancer survivors and so forth, and what we can do is fit you with the wig, and you use it as you do and as you need it, and when you're finished, bring it back. We get it cleaned and restyled. So you come in, we have a little wig room where people can come in and try on the different wigs and style them, and they get to take them with them, and there's no cost.
Do you have a cosmetologist on
No, we don't.
at the site? No.
No, we don't. But the wigs are they're cleaned and sent to a cosmetologist for styling.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. And are you seeing, this is a technical question, but are you seeing occurrences of breast cancer at a younger age by any chance?
Well,
Does it seem?
I don't want to give just anecdotal, but there certainly can be seen. We see women in their 30s and in their 20s, and I think we just had one not too long ago that was 18 that had breast cancer. So it is important for younger women to do the breast self-exam. That's where it's going to be found most often, and to be aware of what their breasts feel like. Because I remember the first time they told me I was 20 and I touched my breast once and I'm going, oh, it's all lumps. Scared me to death. You know, because as you're younger, you have a lot of lumps. So the main thing is to get to know your breasts so that once you know what's normal for you, then you can tell if something has gotten bigger or harder or just unusual.
Is Glendale Memorial having any sort of program right now for mammograms?
We do. We have a discounted $100 mammogram for those who are uninsured and are unable, they may be able to pay for it, but they're just uninsured, so they wouldn't have to pay that higher cost.
How much is the cost of a mammogram? Just total cost.
Total cost.
It's the $100 is
$100 is a discount. Yeah, it's
the real price.
The real price. It's when it's billed out, it's over $250.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some new technology that's introduced very shortly.
Yes, we are excited that our Marshall Ray Breast Center will be getting digital mammography in the near future. You know, it's like building a house. You got your contractors and your everybody. So we're working on it, getting it in, and we hope to get it in very soon. But it's on the way.
And how's that different from regular mammography?
Well, digital mammography is done in such the actual procedure is the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the image is sent over digitally on a computer screen as opposed to being done on hard film, which
it's a sharper image.
It can be manipulated so that it can be sharper. It is very good for women who have dense breast tissue because they can turn it lighter or darker, sort of like your TV where you can turn lighter or darker. I don't want to totally discount analog, because I don't want everybody to say, well, I'm waiting, I'm not coming.
That's true.
Because analog mammography is still actually the gold standard, and digital is catching up. And, well, I shouldn't say catching up. They're equal, they just do work differently. Mm-hmm. And so don't all say, I'm not coming till we have the digital, mm-hmm. because it is good. It is as good.
Oh, I'd like to mention that Friday is National Mammography Day.
Yeah.
It's every third Friday in October. So it's real important that we, like you say, reach out and make sure that our friends and family and even people we don't know get a mammogram. One of the things I work for Kaiser Permanente, we are the national leader in screening, and that's because they pretty much nag you to death until you finally get it.
Yes,
So,
they do. Yes, they do.
Yes. So that's a good way. That's a good telemarketing tool that we would all welcome as women.
Yes. And we all know that, and I'll never forget this, the best prevention is early detection.
Yes.
So for every woman out there, have this mammogram done and know how to self-exam.
Self-exam.
Okay. Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for the gifts.
Oh, thank you. There are plenty of shower cards and things in the back, and please, I'm going to leave them here. Take them, share them, because that's a way of getting the message out.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I should have mentioned to make sure that the minutes reflect that Commissioner Walker and Commissioner Katefian have joined us. Okay, the next item on the agenda.
Agenda item 5, oral comment. Discussion is limited to items which are not a part of this agenda. Time is limited to an amount to be set by the chair. The commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. Staff may refer the matter to the proper department for investigation and report.
We have 3 cards. We'll start with our first, which is Elizabeth Sadlin and Lauren Rauscher from Girls on the Run.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Elizabeth Sadlon. I'm a board member with Girls on the Run, the local council, and I'm here with fellow board member Lauren Rauscher to give you an update since we gave a presentation in June. And we're very excited that Girls on the Run is in a big expansion time. And you may remember that we are a program dedicated to working with girls in 3rd to 8th grade and building an empowerment program to help them be educated and prepared for a lifetime of self-respect and healthy living. And in our work, my daughter is in 5th grade, and she had done 3 seasons of Girls on the Run in Pasadena. And so as I became involved with the board, got very excited at the possibility of being able to offer the program in Glendale at Verdugo Woodlands, which is our school, our neighborhood school. And so with the support of the commission and saying that you would like to be able to see this program in elementary and middle schools across Glendale, we didn't want to wait till spring, so we decided to launch a pilot this fall. And Lauren will tell you more about the details of that from a mom's perspective. I just wanted to let you know how I really love being able to see at this age where it's so important for our girls to be able to understand their own strength, to be able to have this series of times when they get together after school with their friends, and a series of activities that focus on how to take care of themselves, and then another cluster about how to be a good friend, and then a 3rd cluster about how to be a good team member and community member, and to know that these trained coaches are getting together with these girls twice a week to be able to really build these understandings for the girls. And I can see as a mom that coming through in the day-to-day interactions and the challenges that every one of us went through at that age and can remember. So we wanted to just let you know that we've launched this pilot with the great hopes that we will continue this expansion. We'll talk a little bit about the expansion, and why don't I let Lauren tell you about what's been happening as we've been growing.
Well, and to piggyback on what Elizabeth said, where it's so great for the girls to have this mentorship, I would say I coached with this organization in Atlanta for about 5 years before I transferred out here for work. And it is equally as powerful for all the women coaches to build these relationships with young girls in our community. And I would say that more often than not, we leave the practices going, I think that lesson was written for us today more than it was for a 12-year-old. So it's nice mutual sort of empowerment for girls and women. But we're really excited because I got hooked up with the Pasadena Council of Girls on the Run last fall, and we had 2 sites that served 27 girls. And after taking a reprieve in the spring to really focus our efforts on building our infrastructure, we are serving 107 girls in 6 sites, 4 of which are brand new, with over 40 new trained coaches this fall. So we're very excited about that. And 43 of those girls are at the Verdugo Woodlands site.
We've also worked really hard to get help with scholarship. We never turn any child away for inability to pay the program fee, and 30% of our girls right now are on partial or full scholarship for this fall season. We also successfully launched our first summer camp in 2008, where we served 15 girls with the Boys and Girls Club of Pasadena.
So to
It's
build
exciting.
on this expansion, in '09, we're looking to add additional sites. On November 8th, we will be holding a community expansion meeting, which Lana's helping us find a site. We want to site it in Glendale because it's a good location for those who are expressing interest across LA County. We really have a 10-year vision for serving across LA County, but we're building from our roots of Pasadena and Glendale. And your support is really an important anchor for that. We appreciate your connections to possible funding, your enthusiasm and support, and are sharing that as we make applications for funding to support scholarships and expansion within Glendale. And so we hope that we will be able to build into our plans for '09 additional sites in Glendale. We really look for and encourage anyone who wants to participate as a running buddy for the Pasadena Marathon 5K, where our fall girls are going to be running their culminating 5Ks on November 16th. And I'm looking for volunteers and coaches for the spring. And we're finding that the model that we have at Verdugo Woodlands, where we have a principal and a teacher coaching and a parent who's there really encouraging participation, is one of the things we'll be looking for as we expand in Glendale. So get the word out with the parents and schools that we're hooking up with already, and think about where we can have that success and continue to build throughout the community. Questions? Yes, please.
If people want to volunteer, the parents or community members, do they call you or do they call the Verdugo Woodlands School or?
They can contact us.
Okay.
And so, phone number?
Phone number, please.
626
Okay.
590-4770. And our website also has a link for volunteers, and it's GOTR, Girls on the Run, Pasadena.org. GOTRPasadena.org. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Are your volunteers all women?
Head coaches are women, and can only be women. Head coaches commit to twice a week, serving as the lead facilitator, and then assistant coaches can also be men, and running buddies can certainly be men. We have two
Really
men
great
with us
guys,
this season. Yeah.
Great, okay.
Yes, another question?
Are you a parent, Elizabeth? At
I
Verdugo
am,
Woodlands?
yes.
So Janet Buell and
Janet is coaching.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a great hook because she did the LA Marathon for the first time last year, and when we were doing our 5K last December, she saw my daughter and her classmates running while she was training, and she said, "Those are my students," and that's how she first found out about Girls on the Run. So
Okay.
she's been a great support for us.
There's a 5K at the end of every season.
I see,
So
okay.
the girls train for that over between 10 and 12 weeks, depending on school schedules and things like that. So they all run a big race at the end.
Well, I know we're really excited about continuing to support you in the expansion throughout Glendale, and that's a goal of ours. So
Really
we'll
appreciate
continue to
that.
work with you on that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, my next card, number 2, is Sharon Wiseman. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, commission members and staff and everyone listening, I'm Sharon Weissman from Far North Glendale, and I'm here on behalf of 4 separate organizations this evening. First, on behalf of Population Connection, I'd like to let all high school students and teachers know about an opportunity for students to win $200. As many of you know, Population Connection is the former Zero Population Growth and is a national nonprofit organization whose goal is increasing public awareness of the complex relationships involving human populations, their size, and their impact on the environment and socioeconomic issues such as war and immigration. In support of this goal, we're sponsoring an essay contest for high school students with cash prizes, including the $200 top prize. The essay must be 2 to 3 pages long on a topic from a a selected list and include a cover letter from a teacher or school counselor. It must be submitted via U.S. mail and email by November 30th, 2008. If you have questions about the contest or our local population connection chapter centered in Pasadena and covering Glendale, the foothills, and San Gabriel Valley, please contact Dick Seeley at dick.seeley@juno.com or 818-248-1793. I have flyers with information. Pass them around, and I hope they get to our student member. And I would appreciate if you let high school colleagues know about this opportunity. And next, I'd like to let you know about next Monday's Historical Society of the Crescenta Valley meeting. The topic is 100 Times Forgotten. And we have more flyers. The Life and Death of Chinese-American Women in Los Angeles with Andrea Milley, a Cal State University Los Angeles graduate student, researching the skeletal remains of the 12 females in the group of mysterious forgotten corpses uncovered 3 years ago by the construction crews excavating for the foundations of the MTA's Gold Line in East Los Angeles. As they worked, they began discovering coffins buried under the streets. In all, 132 bodies were discovered in remarkably good condition. No one knew who they were, as they were buried where no recorded cemetery existed. Our speaker is one of a team of researchers from Cal State LA who have identified the 100-year-old bodies as those of the forgotten Chinese of early Los Angeles, the immigrants who, along with Latinos and Native Americans, provided the heavy labor that built our city. The meeting is Monday, October 20th, 2008 at 7 p.m. at the Center for Spiritual Living, that's the former Church of Religious Science, at 4845 Dunsmore Avenue, La Crescenta. The meeting is free and open to the public. Next, I want to invite everyone to an upcoming Glendale Peace Vigil Film Forum featuring the documentary A View from a Grain of Sand about Afghanistan. And as you might have discovered or guessed, I have more flyers. 30 years ago, urban Afghan women could wear Western clothes and had jobs such as doctors and school teachers. Now they are virtually erased from the public face of their nation. Told through the eyes of 3 Afghan women, a doctor, a teacher, and a women's rights activist, this documentary tells the story of how war, international interference, and the rise of religious fundamentalism has stripped Afghan women of rights and freedom. Together with rarely seen archival footage, their powerful stories provide illuminating context for Afghanistan's current situation and the ongoing battle women face to gain even basic human rights. It's Friday, November 14th, starting at 7 p.m. at the Glendale Central Library, 222 East Harvard Street, Glendale. That's at the corner of Louise. And it's open to everyone. We do welcome donations because we need to rent the library and have other expenses. And we'll have light refreshments, information available from other community groups, and books, films, and T-shirts, and more for sale. And there's an audience discussion after the film. And we're hoping that the filmmaker, Meena Nanji, will be able to moderate that discussion. She's still finalizing plans for travel out of the country, so we don't know if the timing will work out. But we hope to have her there or other representatives of the Revolutionary Women of Afghanistan organization. And lastly, I'd like to ask the Commission if they're represented on the Glendale Police Chief Randy Adams Community Police Partnership Advisory Committee. Another group I belong to, Glendale Education Social Justice Advocates, has formed a committee on the issue of an independent police review body and is interested in the Commission's opinions. I believe the Commission works closely with Glendale Police Department, particularly on issues such as domestic violence, and would be in a good position to offer different viewpoints. While the recently announced reforms to this advisory panel are welcome, I wonder if an independent civilian oversight group might also be beneficial in helping the police deal more effectively with difficult issues, particularly civilian complaints. When an organization investigates itself, it's difficult to have credibility, even when complaints of police abuse might be unfounded. If the police themselves decide they're unfounded, it's not as powerful as if a independent review. Thank you for your time. And now that I have a few minutes left, my student and I did very much enjoy reading When the Emperor Was Divine, and we're only into the preface of Enrique's journey, but it's very interesting too. My student is a 20-some year U.S. resident, but she was born in India, and she finds other immigrant stories particularly compelling, and we really appreciate the library doing it, and Casa Verdugo allowing us to be a little two-person group there. Thank you again for your time.
And thank you for your volunteerism.
Ms. Wiseman, maybe what I'll ask you to do is discuss further in the future with Ms. Haddad your idea and how that would be and what our relationship with the commission would be, and then we can ask Ms. Varpetian and Ms. Haddad to have a discussion to see if it would be appropriate, and if so, in what way, so that we could see if it's appropriate to bring it back for a future agenda for our consideration.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know during the City Council discussion of this review, Councilman Najarian suggested including our Glendale Education Social Justice Advocates and perhaps even the local ACLU chapter. So I know there's some discussion of expanding that advisory group. So,
okay,
thank
great.
you.
I have a comment about some of the flyers that you distributed. The one about the essay contest, is that something that's on, is electronic that you can email?
I didn't do the printing of this, but I can certainly find that out and let you know. I can let
Yeah,
Ms.
I'd like
Haddad
to
know.
distribute this to some
Yes,
other...
yes. I've invited the school board and other people, and I guess I'm perhaps a little chauvinistic. I'd like to see some Glendale students in this contest. We've awarded a lot of prizes over the last couple of years, and it's mostly students from the Alhambra and Arcadia districts that are submitting essays. So we'd really love to have some Glendale students participate too. So if you can help spread the word, I'd really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, and our third card then? Okay, we have Ms. Liza Bubari. You want to go ahead and step forward?
Good evening, Chairman Caroline and Council. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
My name is Liza Bubari. I am the owner of a healing center in Glendale called Inner Sight, and just wanted to let you know that we have expanded, and we have a new element to Inner Sight called Heal Within. And our healing center specializes in women and women's issues. And I'm here to talk about my passion, which is women, and all the services that we offer. One of the biggest things that I'm here to talk about is obesity, menopause, fertility, and cancer. And as a certified counselor with domestic violence, and this month being Domestic Violence Awareness, it's one of my passions, bringing women to awareness of what is going on in the city, as we are going to be doing our candlelight vigil on October 24th with the Commission and the YWCA. It is very much needed, a place of safety and security that we are offering with your awareness to all the women in the community. And our center provides a place for them to heal emotionally, physically, and mentally. We are an augmentation to Western medicine, and the things that we offer is working through hypnotherapy. And as a certified massage therapist and a hypnotherapist, I incorporate hypnosis with massage, and I work with cancer patients. And one of the things that we offer is when we disrobe them, a lot of cancer patients do not receive massages. Actually, some of them don't even get touched by their spouse or anyone other than having a mammogram done, and the fears of that. So what we offer is a place that we can heal their emotional needs as much as the physical fears that is going on with cancer. And we are here to present that and say that every day in every way we have the power within us to make a change. And Heal Within is a place of safety and security to offer that to each and every woman. I myself, in my late 40s, I'm going through my own menopausal, premenopausal. So with cancer, menopausal, fertility, and domestic violence, those are issues that we tackle. We work in mind-body connection, and I offer every third Wednesday of the month, which is in 2 days, a workshop, which is called Listen to Your Body Talk. Is become aware of what is happening within our body and bringing it to surface, and appreciate yourself when you stand in front of the mirror. Instead of all the negative self-talks, begin by saying, what are all the beautiful things that we have within ourselves? All the good things that we have done and our successes. So I have created a place to empower women and help them reduce all the emotional weight and the physical weight as an augmentation to exercises and the Western medicine. I brought you some flyers for you to take a look. We work with women of all issues and all walks of life and their children and families. Talk about anxiety and stress. We work with children taking examinations and adults that go all the way to securities or bar exam that they haven't passed many times, in reducing all the blocks and the past patterns and releasing that. And that's what I came here to say is thank you very much for all the work that you're doing as a board member of the YWCA. We're going to be there on the 24th. And that Heal Within is a place to enhance and promote healing within, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Any questions? Yes.
Why don't you tell our viewers where you are, the location, and a phone number for your facility? I know
this entire talk has been a perfect presentation with the breast cancer, mammograms, and then our library talking about it. We're right across the street from the main library. And the address is 208 South Louise. Our phone number is 818-551-1501. And our sign says Inner Sight, and Heal Within is an element of Inner Sight.
On your website, too.
Our website is www.healwithin.com. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Lisa, you're talking support groups, and how many do you usually have in a group? Is it one-on-one, or do you do two? Or
I do one-on-one sessions. We do have wellness classes that we offer, and we also have Listen to Body Talk is a group, usually between 7 to 9 women come, and it's not exclusive to women, but it's mostly women who come in, because cancer does not have any gender. It does not see color, race, gender. Yes.
As a board member of YWCA, you might want to wear that hat right now.
That's true.
Could you tell us about the Encore Plus program that YWCA has about the breast cancer?
Well, we go out and do the detections and bring awareness. And I think our staff work with Glendale Memorial Hospital, and they can contact 244-4155, which is the phone number for the YWCA, and make a connection with them. And I believe our services are free. Yes.
Also, I wanted to commend Lisa for having a beautiful center. I've been to her place. It's great. It's very relaxing. It's definitely a place to leave your stress and walk away.
Well, you're all more than welcome to come and visit us. And in closing, I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. And hopefully, we'll see all of you. Anytime that you want to distress, you can even just come over there and read a book, listen to some music and waterfalls, and enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, it seems like we've done a lot, and we haven't even started, so in some respects. So with that, we'll close our oral comment, and we'll move to item 6, consent items. Item A is approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting held on September 8th, 2008. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? I had one question. Oh, never mind. Any comments or questions, changes, additions? Commissioner Walker?
Yes, the section on the Jewels of Glendale, Commissioner Lamel and I are going to be co-chairs.
So it's correct in the minutes and needs to be corrected in the report, which lists Commissioner Lamel as the lead, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Then we'll make that change to item 7A2 on the agenda to that report. Okay, thank you. With respect to the minutes, any changes? Is there a motion then to approve the minutes as submitted?
I so move.
Okay, is there, Commissioner Manasarian moved, is there a second? Okay, Commissioner Katefian, any further discussion? Is there unanimous consent? Okay, the minutes are approved. Ms. Haddad, next item on the agenda, please.
Now at the business agenda of the commission, agenda item 7A1, a consideration and discussion of UNIFEM Just Say No to Violence campaign and the Treaty for Women's Rights, formerly called the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Two motions accompany this report. One is a motion to formally join the UNIFEM Just Say No to Violence campaign, along with Seroptimus International of Glendale, and B is a motion recommending that City Council adopt a resolution in support of CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Okay. So if I could at this time invite President Sandy Schultz up to the podium. President Schultz is here on behalf of Seroptimus International of Glendale to talk a little bit about the Just Say No to Violence campaign against women. Nicole Kidman is the official spokesperson for UNIFEM on this campaign, and I know the Seroptimus is incredibly active. It is an internet-based campaign, and Sandy, if you want to take it away?
I will. Good evening. Chair Curlin, Vice Chair Devine, Commissioners and staff. As president of Seroptimus International of Glendale, it is a real honor to speak on behalf of our club regarding the United Nations UNIFEM Say No to Violence Against Women campaign. As some of you know, this is a global internet-based advocacy effort for ending violence against women. It was organized by UNIFEM. The initiative is designed to show that there is an ever-growing movement of people who raise their voices and demand making the end of violence against women a top priority for governments everywhere. The participants, it's very easy to do, add their name to an internet book as an expression of public support and call for action. The Say No was developed to feed into UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's campaign on this very issue. As Lana said, actress Nicole Kidman is a UNIFEM Goodwill Ambassador, and she was the first to sign on to this list and is the campaign's spokesperson. Violence against women and girls is probably the most pervasive human rights violation, affecting as many as 1 in 3 women and girls who may be beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused in their lifetime. This really must stop. A life free of violence is every woman and girl's right. The goal of this internet campaign is to have 1 million signatures or more by the 25th of November 2008 in observance of the International Day to eliminate violence against women. When UNIFEM plans on handing over the names of everybody who has signed on to this list to the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, this campaign was launched on the 26th of November in 2007. At this present time, they have close to 250,000 names on the internet, on their site, on their UNIFEM Say No site. But I thought it would be kind of nice tonight to ask you as a commission to personally go to the site. And I have a long site that I gave Lana, but actually it's really easy to just go to www.unifem.org. And there is a box there where you can click on to sign on to the petition and the campaign. And, you know, I was just thinking big, and if everybody out there on TV or listening to us right now would go to that site and click on it, I really think that we could make a huge difference in making a difference in bringing about awareness on this issue. So can you imagine that if everybody in Glendale would go onto the site and sign on, we could really boost up the number of signatures on this campaign. I want to thank the Commission for your support of this issue, as Seroptimus and the Commission, as you know, have very similar and same mission and goals for helping women and girls, not only in our community, but worldwide. And I know that you're going to be discussing about CEDAW, and I am very pleased to hear about that, because I don't know if you know that Seroptimus International of the Americas has endorsed the signing of this International Bill of Rights for Women for many years now. And so we really welcome your support on this very, very critical and important issue. It has been a real pleasure for me to meet with you. And, you know, I really look forward for future collaborations on our part. And I just have to tell you that I was so inspired tonight by listening to all of these women get up and talk about the issues that are going on in the city of Glendale. And I just want to thank you that as a Seroptimist, I know that we will have future opportunities to work together. And thank you so much.
Ms. Schultz, I just wanted to say that we've been looking at CEDAW for about 4 years, and we kept pushing it off, and we finally calendared it for like January 09. We were going to go to City Council. So I want to say thank you for forcing us to push it to the front and to get acting on it sooner.
Very important.
And we were, while aware of CEDAW and have been looking at it for a long time, primarily in our Policy and Program Committee, we didn't know about the Just Say No to Violence campaign. So we really want to thank you for bringing that to our attention.
It's just a small way of doing something. You know, you don't think that, what is my little click on the mouse going to make a difference? But you know, when collectively we work together, there is such power in all of us working together to make a difference.
And sharing that information, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I did go to the site, and I've already signed on.
Oh,
so,
good for you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so
Yay.
I think,
I have a question, Sandy. I understand that it was endorsed by Seroptimist International Founders Region. Can you explain that, the Founders Region?
Well, Founders, you know, Seroptimus International of the Americas is headquartered out of Philadelphia. And there are 28 regions in Seroptimus International of the Americas. Founders Region happens to be the founding region where the first Seroptimus Club was organized in 1921 in Oakland, California. So that particular area in Northern California is called Founders Region because they were our founding region. So that's why it's called Founders Region. But Seroptimus International of the Americas did endorse the signing of this many, many years ago. Okay, yes.
Do you have a campaign letter via email? Because sometimes it's easier to just forward it to news groups and so on.
Actually, on the website, there is a place where you can
forward it to your email addresses, groups, whatever. So they have made it very user-friendly. So please, just go to...
Some people...
Yeah, if you just go to www.unifem.org, there will be a box right there that you can click on. See, that long address goes directly to the site, but you can go, to make it easier for the public, it would be easier to go to www.unifem.org and then click on the box, and then it will take you to the site. Yes, so it's real easy.
They've also, just to point out, they've also set up a special website called saynotoviolence.org.
Yes, yes.
So that also takes you right to that particular
campaign. They've made it very user-friendly, and I really would like to see this number spike up between now and the end of November, the 25th of November.
Very good. Well, thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
We'll see how much power we have.
That's right.
City of Glendale.
Nothing can outdo the power of a group of women who are determined to make a difference, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we've discussed signing on as individuals. We now have the opportunity with an agenda item that our commission would formally join the UNIFEM Just Say No to Violence campaign. So I think we have enough information as through our presentation and our report. Is there such a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any further discussion?
I just have a question, Chair Kerlin. What are some of the expectations of, formally joining UNIFEM?
You just sign on the internet petition. You sign on as a supporter.
Okay.
And at this time, that's it. But it's totally on point with our primary focus area of domestic violence. So it's sort of a no-brainer, if you will, for us. It's not controversial. There's no downside. There's no obligation or anything that we have to do. It's a public espousing of our support for this campaign.
Okay.
I was just going to say that both of these, CEDA and UNIFEM, our endorsing them is just a way of saying we're for them in spirit against domestic violence. So that's, I think, what we're doing.
So any group can participate, endorse?
Yes.
And CEDA's broader, so we shouldn't mix at this time. So let's just focus on the Just Say No to Violence campaign first.
I just have one comment. Is that something we could maybe put on our site to say we are supporters of that, and here's the website or the link? And
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great. Thank
Certainly,
you.
because it's exactly on par with what we do and our mission. So, yes, that's a good suggestion. Okay, is there any further discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Devine?
Yes.
Tafian? Giovannian? Oh, sorry. Lamel?
Yes.
Manasarian?
Yes.
Sobey?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Chair Kerlin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. And related but broader then would be the second motion. I know everyone received your CEDA book, which was in great detail, and then we have a report that goes through still a really good summary of the highlights of our CEDA book. Our second motion is a motion recommending that City Council adopt a resolution in support of CEDA, and this is huge because, as you will note in your report, to date there are 12 states in the United States, 11 counties, and 20 cities. So we would be joining that list of progressive cities that are publicly espousing support for CEDA, which is important as it continues to come up that the United States has not yet recognized it. It's important to grow the numbers of counties and cities and local support. So we could have a presentation on the report if anyone would like it. Otherwise, we can call it for a motion to recommend that City Council adopt a resolution in support of CEDA.
Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you said you had been working on this for 4 years, but since I joined about a year or so ago, we got this book about 3 months ago or 4 months ago, and I did read through it, and there are some questions that I had. Actually, I don't want to bore you with all the questions, but there are some questions that I had that I wanted to discuss. So I don't know if you want to go through, there are 30 articles, and there are some articles that, 2 or 3 that I have questions about. They're mostly, the articles that are against violence, I have no problem with, but there are some issues that I have questions about. So I was wondering how would you like to conduct that meeting? Would you like me to go through the questions one by one and then have, people who are more maybe versed in the CEDAW answer those questions, or I'm just kind of...
I think that's what we'd have to do. This is the time, so we certainly wouldn't want to pass this on to City Council if we didn't have a motion that was supported. So I think this is the opportunity for discussion. Why don't we see what we can accomplish? If we find that we need more time to discuss or more in-depth information, we can always bring it back. We don't need to rush. We've been waiting 4 years. So why don't you go ahead, and then we can have some group discussion on those items to see if there's some consensus among us as to how we interpret the article.
Okay. All right. So should I start asking the questions?
Yes. Okay. Jump right in.
Okay. There are about 30 articles in CEDAW in the booklet that I went through, and I read the treaty summary. And there are several articles that I had questions about, and I can start with Article 2, which page 11, actually, in the book, if you're following with the book. Otherwise, I'll read the article, and then you can go about the question when I present the question. Article 2 mandates that the state parties condemn discrimination in all its forms and to ensure a legal framework, including all laws, policies, and practices that provides protection against discrimination and embodies the principle of equality. Now, if I'm correct in understanding, there are 23 women on the United Nations that are on the part of the committee, that sit on the committee, that are from participating countries. And I just wondered, as far as the principle of equality, are they the ones who define that principle for us? And are we, as a country, following that, the principle of equality, as opposed to what our Constitution and Bill of Rights are saying?
Go ahead.
I'll just give you some background.
Yes.
This particular document, this CEDAW, is the result of 30 years of collaborative work between the committee and the UN committees to write this document out.
Right.
International definitions of equality actually fall very much in line. The United States was a really prominent force in terms of writing and drafting CEDAW, and this is based in many ways on what we already take for granted in terms of, if you look at the preamble, for example, it talks about the inherent worth and dignity of every human being to live in freedom. So that's very much a concept that's familiar to America, to the United States, also very consistent with U.S., California, and national laws. So it's not anything that would overturn existing laws. It doesn't preempt the United States sovereignty in any sort of way, which has been a concern for people who are generally opposed to this. However, one thing also to note is, if you feel like that would be a concern, it's a non-self-executing document. You can sign on to endorse it. Some counties, like LA, for example, and LA City, and California, certain cities have signed on to actually implement the conditions of CEDAW. So they take it a step further and say, not only do we endorse it, we want our city and we want our county to live up to this. So they will actually make modifications to their ordinances to better fit in what they see. But this is not a self-executing kind of document. It's more like a symbolic, we sign on to the idea of equality between the genders, and nobody should be discriminated about on the basis of sex, which is already consistent with our definition of equality.
Which is already consistent. We have laws that, already in the government to protect a lot of the domestic violence issues and other issues, discrimination issues. But what my concern is in other countries, there are requiring to be as a law. And how is that going to play in the United States? In other words, in some of the countries, they are using, well, maybe for a good reason, because they do not have laws. So they're using CEDAW as a guiding basis of their laws. Basis of their laws.
CEDAW was intended to provide a framework for nation states who don't have necessarily the same kind of laws that we have in the United States, so that it provides some implementable steps. And nation states that do sign on and ratify this particular convention provide a report once every 4 years to the UN on the status of women. Now, it is also interesting to note that the United States is the only industrialized nation that has not ratified the agreement, despite the fact that we signed on in 1980.
And why is the main reason for that?
Every single president has pushed for it, so including Clinton and including President Bush has made statements in support of it. So it is interesting to see that hasn't passed. And it initially passed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It didn't pass. It didn't get moved on. It just kind of went back and sat in committee.
I see. It's just that, sometimes I wonder that if we're creating more laws to implement more laws that already exist, we have all, I was reading through most of these, and my question was, we already have laws that protect this, and the United States has laws. We have laws to protect domestic violence or women's issues and women's rights, and everyone's looking to us to really be the lead, but I don't know if CEDAW is the one that we want to use as the lead. We're already a leader in that, I think, in many aspects.
I think we're not. And I think clearly the fact that we've not signed on shows that while we looked like we were going to be a leader, and in fact we were a leader at the table, in actuality, we were the only developed nation that then failed to ratify the treaty. So while we may have those laws on our local level, our state, our county, this is a global movement because it's treaty, so it's international law, to have global recognition of the equality of men and women. So it's broader than our local laws. So yes, you're absolutely correct. We do have a lot of these things in play already. We are in a pretty progressive state. And so our state is a leader, if you will, but our country has clearly not been in this regard. If you think back to like the Equal Rights Amendment, that came up a long time ago, then it came up again in the 70s, and we've never passed that. So there is some reluctance somewhere to recognize this simple truth that women are equal to men.
Well, you want to explain something?
I just actually wanted to touch on that idea of that we are leaders in human rights. We would be leaders if we ratified this agreement internationally, but because we refuse to do it, it makes us look actually a little bit backwards in the international community as opposed to being a leader in that particular regard.
Also, too, as long as we're leaders, but we also respect I think, in my opinion, the cultural differences of the other countries. Like one of the issues that was brought up as I was reading this, it was about the country of Armenia. And, for example, if we go to page 50, I think, I was reading, or is it 50 or?
I don't think everybody has their book.
Okay, I will read it so everyone would know. One of the issues that there was, I guess, concern about CEDAW in the committee was, it's page, 55. Page 55, if you want to follow. Yeah, it's about Armenia, and I needed clarification on that because what happened is the committee urged Armenia, or there is a statement saying that the committee urged Armenia to combat, quote, combat the traditional stereotype of women in the noble role of mother, unquote, or that must have come up in some context. And the government of Armenia in July 1997 report maintained that women are free to choose any profession in the Republic of Armenia. However, in order to safeguard women's health and maternity, they're not allowed to work in positions requiring hard manual labor and night shifts. Further, employment of pregnant women and nursing women under such condition is prohibited within the labor code. However, it is traditional for women also to be responsible for the upbringing of children and housekeeping. And I just want to say, for a person who has visited Armenia, of Armenian descent, the role of motherhood is a very big part of the culture. There are a lot of poetry written. There's a lot of cultural event that goes around the role of motherhood. And what this is saying is that the committee was saying, their response to this was that, quote, the noble role of mother, unquote, must play itself out against the backdrop of tangible economic and social predicaments that only further disables women who are defined only by their maternal qualifications. And further, it goes to say that the lack of support in the home and the increase in the domestic workload significantly diminishes the physical and moral strength necessary for professional growth. Now, what this says is the committee is not concerned with the noble role of mothers, but with the practices that justify women's limited and often inadequate access to employment. Well, women in Armenia are very advanced. They're very professional. Most doctors are female doctors. There are a lot of women in the professional workforce, and they're also mothers. And there is nothing wrong to have that role still be looked upon as something that's a very noble role, and also have the professionalism too. And if I may say, I am also professional, and I'm also a mother. So to me, that's something that, maybe if that's what the committee does, goes into each country and also reaches to their cultural issues and try to change their labor laws, that I have a problem with. I have a question and issue with. I need more clarification on that.
It says if you read it, it doesn't change anyone's laws. You still have your laws as a sovereign nation.
Right.
So that is, it's kind of complicated because it's international law and how treaties are interpreted and how it plays out.
On page 50, it says it is
it talks about how it gets implemented. I think there was something, a whole bunch of us are moms.
Yes.
And some of us are moms and professionals. There are women in our community who are moms only, and there are women who work only, and this doesn't make any distinction in any way that denigrates you if you're a mother or elevates you if you're a mother. It all goes back to the equality of men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if there was information in the report about the history of the conflict of Mother's Day in Russia, which there was a movement afoot to put women back in the home and get them to accept their roles as mother as being the best thing they could do in an attempt to take them out of the workplace and not have them succeed professionally. And there was a controversy surrounding that this would do away with the Mother's Day as it had been defined, that kind of thing. Right. And the treaty commentary makes it clear it has nothing to do with, it would never eliminate like our Mother's Day, where we celebrate women who are mothers and celebrate our mothers.
Well, I think to take another international example and step outside of Armenia for a second, because there's a really strong personal identification there. But if you take a look, for example, from the film screening that's coming up on November 14th that Ms. Weisman brought up, one of the things that we see with this idea of the traditional role of women is that it's used, for example, in Afghanistan to take women out of the workforce and put them in a position where not only were they taken out of the workforce and denied the right to earn any money, they were denied the right to own property, they were denied the right to custody or divorce if they needed it in an abusive relationship. They were also publicly executed for so much as showing a wrist that's an extreme example, but this is the kind of idea where this notion of traditional ends up being used to bind women into roles that were actually long, maybe not even existed in the country, but sort of part of an imagination. So the idea isn't that somehow the role of mother is not noble. It's that when it's couched as this way of like the noble role of mother, that it supersedes every other role that you could potentially have and is used to limit you from progressing forward into the workplace. That's when it's actually being used to harm women and not to help women or mothers for that matter. Because what happens if women who need to work a night shift because their children go to school and it's prohibited in the country? That actually works against women and families and children. So it's a way of sort of opening up so that women can make a freedom of choices like anybody else in the city or community.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that it's not really exclusivity in the sense that it's, putting aside that noble role of motherhood, but it's at the same time, yes, you can be a mother, just as a lot of us are here, and at the same time, be a career woman, and not have any kind of, disruption between the two, and also discriminatory effects on us as women trying to progress in the workplace. So I think that's really good clarification, and I appreciate Commissioner Manasarian's point of view in terms of, looking at how she's reading this and, her experiences and so on, because that's really critical if we're really going to, bring this forth to council and
because
and so
it's not
on.
only that, it's because there's one of the articles also defines motherhood. So there's women that also are the committee are going to end up defining motherhood. Like Article 5, it's saying that declares the need to take appropriate measures to modify cultural patterns of conduct as well as the need for family education to recognize the social function of motherhood and the common responsibility for raising our children. So my question is, I would certainly, I think all of you being mothers would, the ones would appreciate this. We like to raise our children the way we feel are most appropriate. And for another agency to really come back and tell us how we need to raise our children, I would definitely have an issue with. Now, however, I understand that that's why I had to study the treaty. How is a treaty functioning as opposed to laws? Now, if this becomes a treaty and then becomes a law, then I would have a problem with, because I would have a problem someone telling me how to raise my children. But if it's just a treaty, so that's why I was looking into studying treaties, how maybe we should really look into how treaties are playing out, and how these committees are really coming back, like such as the committee on CEDAW committee, the women, how are they ruling on certain issues? I'd like to know more about what, if they've been around for 30 years or 25 years, as you were saying, then they should have some kind of a pattern of ruling or what the countries are doing in different issues. I'd like to look more into that to see, how is that working out in practicality. I mean, it's something to have it as articles here, but it's something else when it comes to implementing it. So I just wanted to know what...
Well, I think it's important to note that they don't rule on anything. What they do is they make recommendations for states. So whether they become implemented or not, it just gets reported to the Secretary General, first to the committee, and then, because the states, remember, submit a report on the improvements for human rights to the committee. That committee then turns around and submits those reports to the Secretary General. But there's no necessarily, and this is part of the challenge of working with a UN document, is there's no power of enforcement there. What they do is they make recommendations. So they're not actually changing, but what they're doing is providing a framework. And it actually, in this city, it becomes very important because we have a large population of people internationally. So we have about 56% of our population is born in countries other than the United States. And so international law and the standards that the U.S., if we can actually get this to pass and get ratified on the national level, becomes a way of saying the United States is partner to the UN in wanting to ascertain that every woman in this global village of ours has the same level of standard of living that we would have, the same standard of equality that we would have, not just, and taking into account, I think your concern is, they're going to impose on me a standard that I don't want. It's about freedom. It's about allowing you to decide in your own home with absolute agency how you want to raise your kids. But
right now, I don't feel like I don't have that freedom right now.
But you live here.
That's true. Right? That's what I'm saying. I mean, if I lived here and there are so many RUDs, as I was reading that there is reservation understandings and declarations that we have to actually put on this to be able to pass it. Why would we want to pass something with 11 RUDs, which is reservation declarations and understandings? So we have to implement that, have that put in here in order to have the UN pass it. So my question is, why would we want to pass something that we have to tweak it so much to be able to pass it?
That's the way a law gets passed, though. I mean, just take a look at that $700 billion bailout that just got passed, and then it gets tweaked, That's kind of the way that we end up perfecting laws, and they're never actually perfect because the social conditions are changing right along with the law as you're modifying it. And I think that's just part of the process.
Look at things like equal pay. We still women do not make, they make 70-some cents on the dollar of every man. So while you can say, I feel equal and that I have freedom, in reality, our statistics bear out that there are fundamental areas in which women are inferior to men and are not equal, the leading one probably being pay, which is significant for the power it brings.
As I said, I agree with a lot of articles that are written, but I also have questions about some of the articles that are written. So it's equal pay as being one that I happen to agree with. But as far as Article 5 is, that's the question I have. And also Article 10, for example.
You know what, let's go to 5. Let me read it into the record so people know what we're talking about. Article 5 is that state parties shall take all appropriate measures, A, to modify the social and cultural patterns of conduct of men and women with a view to achieving the elimination of prejudices and customary and all other practices which are based on the idea of the inferiority or the superiority of either of the sexes or on stereotyped roles for men or women. I think as a women's commission, this is pretty much everything we're about, is eliminating stereotypes educating that women are equal to men. So this doesn't make you change your parenting style or change laws. It recognizes that there are cultural differences. I don't think we can pretend there aren't. Throughout the world, throughout our country, throughout our state, throughout our city, where there is an idea that men are superior to women. And this is a view to achieving the elimination of that prejudice. So it's a lofty goal, if you will, that we change those ideas to educate that women are equal to men.
Can I just, Commissioner Manasirian has her text here on page 10, where it discusses dialogue and consultation. And it says that the drafters of this convention, the commitment to identify areas where women are still lagging behind and just promotes. It doesn't say it has to be law. It's just promoting consultative dialogue and developing appropriate remedies. This is simply, again, and I'm going to use this phrase, in spirit. You know, it's an endorsement in spirit.
I do know that, Commissioner, but the only thing is that I could be sitting here and saying yes and agreeing to all these things, but it won't be fair because I have all these questions. And, you know, if it really, I mean, we're not lawmakers, we're not, you know, attorneys or people who are well-versed in things, you know, a majority of issues like this. So we need clarifications, or at least I do, in many of these articles to be able to really make more informed decision. Because if I do have questions on this, then it won't be fair to say, yes, I do agree, and let's pass it. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
And I don't think you should, and I want you to feel comfortable.
I think it's great you're asking.
I want you to be comfortable to do that. And, you know, we're talking about this, and people are watching who've never heard of this ever before.
Right.
So I think this is a good way to vet some of the issues that you identified that are probably some of the areas for discussion.
Okay. My Article 5 that I was reading was a little different than yours. I think that was explaining more, but I won't read you again, but again, it raises the question, the function of, it talks about the need for family education to recognize the social function of motherhood and the common responsibility for raising children. And that's what I thought it was, this is how it was written originally, or is
That's item B, to ensure that family education includes a proper understanding of maternity as a social function and the recognition of the common responsibility of men and women in the upbringing and development of their children, it being understood that the interest of the children is the primordial consideration in all cases. So that talks just about the importance of men and women in a family setting, both being responsible equally for the raising of the children, and that the best interest of the children, if you will, is the primary consideration of everyone in the family unit.
And I don't think it's reading here that the family education component is going to include, you know, workshops or ways on how to raise your child and so on, but education, inculcation in the sense that, you know, both mother and father have equal responsibility in bringing up the children. And it's not just the sole responsibility of the mother. But we might be interpreting it this way, and in reality, again.
Well, that's why I think this book is really good, because this book, you know, I'm now talking from the text, the plain language text. The CEDAW book is very good because it gives you the text, the interpretation of it, the pros, the cons, the discussion that's already been had, so that you can sort of work through what both sides of the issues are on those things that might be considered controversial or, you know, discussion worthy, you know, that aren't such no-brainers as some of the other articles.
Article 6, if we go into Article 6, since Paula has the book, Commissioner Devine, obligates state parties to take measure to suppress the trafficking of women and the exploitation of prostitution of women. Now, as far as my idea of agreeing with that is 100%. I mean, I cannot agree with it more. However, one of the committee rulings or recommendations was at the back of the book that they decriminalized Chinese prostitution. And, you know, in Article 11, it was reading that the free choice of profession and employment should be, actually, they used Article 11 as the free choice of profession. So they said the recommendation of the committee was that they wanted to decriminalize the prostitution in China. So if we want to suppress the trafficking and really stop exploitation of women, I don't know if we should, the committee should have recommended that. So I'm not sure I agreed with that recommendation of the committee.
This is a long-standing discussion of the decriminalization of prostitution and whether it's a valid career choice. Yes, there's a lot of feminist writing in this area about whether it's a valid career choice for someone who knowingly, willingly, voluntarily pursues this, and it should be decriminalized so they're not constantly being arrested and incarcerated for making a living using the skills and the know-how that they have, versus Big Brother, if you will, saying, oh, this is criminal and we're going to not permit it, et cetera. So this is a long-standing debate. I think that these two are actually harmonized the way they're written here, because one is you're suppressing trafficking. And that implies that it is not voluntary. With all the work we've done, that we've seen Seroptimus doing, their focus on human trafficking over the last couple of years, the film we showed, that kind of thing, that is involuntary servitude. And that is exploitation of women sexually or in another number of other ways. That's separate from your voluntary choice of profession. And while we can strive to steer people into feeling they have other career choices and training and education and vocational information, which is actually listed here, it's also, the right to choose your profession. So I think those are two totally separate issues.
I think also one of the reasons this might have been brought up as a recommendation on the part of the committee is not as an endorsement per se of prostitution, but rather because of the disparate impact that happens when women are prosecuted and the Johns are not. So instead of approaching it from, let's stiffen penalties for people who are utilizing the services of prostitutes who might have often been sold into slavery or trafficked into prostitution, instead of approaching the demand side, they approach the supply side, and that disparately impacts women, which is, in legal terms, I think a classic definition of discrimination, is that there's a disparate impact on a single population as a result of race, in this state, race, class, gender, you know what I mean? So it's like the impact of the law has a disparate negative impact on women in the case of China, for example. And so, for example, in LA County, just to bring it closer, LA City, what LA City does is impound the car of somebody who was arrested as a John in prostitution, so that the impact is borne by the person who is buying the services and not just by the person who's breaking the law regarding prostitution. So just working within the framework of our laws here, that would be part of the reason why that might have been a recommendation on the part of the committee.
So could this be used for other countries as well? Could this recommendation go, decriminalize, let's say, prostitution in other countries?
Again, they could recommend, but that doesn't mean the state's going to do it. So even if they recommend it.
What's the then?
Like, we don't decriminalize prostitution, and I don't see that happening in our near future at all.
Right.
And approving CEDA would have zero impact. It wouldn't force us to do that or move us in that direction or anything.
So these are just really principles and guiding, concepts and lofty aims and goals that we really want to achieve in terms of the equalization between men and women.
And I think, in basic terms, exactly, we can say we want women to have the right of the free choice of their profession, meaning we don't want them to feel that there are certain professions they can't pursue by nature of being a woman, that anything is available and open to you. Then that brings up that sub-issue of, is prostitution a choice? So I think we need to look at it in the bigger picture of we want women to be able to freely choose whichever profession and employment they want. And I think of things like being a doctor, being an engineer, being a mathematician.
Well, and in point of fact, other articles speak directly to the point that women should have equal access to education and as well as employment in other areas as they see fit. So it allows for states to do things like expand the opportunities for women to get into colleges, for example, where that might not be allowed, or get into elementary schools where you have, people going into rural parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan, setting up schools so that young girls who have been forbidden from getting education are now getting educated, because that is the single most reliable predictor of economic self-sufficiency is education. That's true here in the United States. It's true internationally. So.
Right. So what are the steps taken if, let's say, the recommendations are given to these countries and they don't follow the recommendations? What are sanctions ever used against these countries or not?
This is not that kind of treaty. There are different kinds of international treaties. There are certain international treaties where when a certain number of states, which in international law means countries, sign on, they become law and you are bound by those provisions. That is like, for example,
Kyoto Treaty.
The United... Bad example. Let's focus on the United... it's escaping me now. I did have a class in international law. I was on the international law moot court team, okay? It's the UN Charter. The UN Charter is probably the easiest example. You are bound by those provisions. Enforcement is a whole other story, but you are bound by those provisions. And so when you sign on, you are accepting that you can be held accountable or publicly chastised for your treaty violations. This is not that kind of treaty, which is why it specifically says it's not self-executing. And I think that in reality what you'll see is countries that are totally opposed to these types of provisions aren't going to sign on. So that leaves us in the company of countries that don't think favorably towards women by and large, because the countries that have agreed to sign on are saying we will strive to achieve these principles. How and how long and when that happens is another story. But
on the other hand, you have 7 countries who have not ratified it, which we are one of. But there are countries that have ratified it that aren't doing any of this.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean,
it's not law.
What is like, for example, Afghanistan has signed on. And, one of the countries that has the poorest, condition for women, I think, is Afghanistan, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking of, in terms of another example, we were sort of talking about the U.S. recognizing the Armenian genocide as a genocide. Now, take that as one example. The United States could pass a resolution saying that that's a symbolic gesture, but they haven't yet, and that means a lot that they haven't yet. Do you know what I mean? So, if this is in the same vein as that, it doesn't have any enforceable action per se. There's no enforceable action against Turkey in the resolutions in the resolution to recognize a genocide. However, it does matter when you don't pass it. It has a statement for people. So.
I think it raises awareness, and also a lot of unity. And even if it doesn't have the same sanctions, effects of law, and so on, there's that kind of that moral, social responsibility aspect that we need to really be held accountable for. And sometimes just by that act of, ratifying it and being behind that, in that solidarity, I think it really raises the level of awareness.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. I understand what you're saying in that aspect. As a matter of fact, I was aware of that because I have followed it all along. But, we don't want to just pass treaties just to pass treaties, for example, without really understanding it. And that's my issue. I really would like to understand, if I say yes to this, what am I saying yes to? Of course. And, and that's why I need to have all the questions answered and, to see if it's something that I would want to go ahead with. So,
Do you think we're ready to pass this, or maybe we need another...
To me, I think that the program policy group was originally, I know you've looked at it for 4 years. That's what I don't want to, in a way, probably you would have to look at it again and just postpone it. But I really think that I'd like to see what has happened in this country for 30 years. Look at the history and have more time to, discuss it. And I don't know if we want to do that or
I don't know if we could actually provide more information. This was new to us, and I thought this was a great thing because this totally distilled down all the questions that we had and broke it down. We had the actual treaty before, and we had a handout. I think one of the our sister commissions had done, the city
LA
or
City did, so
or
did
the
San Francisco.
county. And this is how we first became aware of this. It was through that sharing at ACCW where our sister commissions urged every commission to go back and get this passed by your cities. And so that's been something that we've had for a long time. And so, do we know who else? Santa Monica, I think, a signator.
Well, I know LA City is, San Francisco Commission, and the city and the county. They're actually, LA City and San Francisco actually are implementing CEDAW. The county, I think it's Santa Barbara.
Contra Costa is
Contra Costa. Most of California, actually, almost all of the counties in California.
And that may come because we have a
but-
very strong ACCW that sent us out as this is something that you can do, sister commissions, go get support for this. And I assume we're one of the 12 states.
When did
Oh,
LA
absolutely.
City adopt it, do you know, or implement it?
You know, I was just looking at it today, and the date just escapes me, actually.
Has it been more than a year, or?
Probably more than a year.
One of the things that helped me, because I had some of the same some of the same concerns as Commissioner Mansarian, and I looked at the myths and the realities around it, and that kind of explained some of the articles that were your concern too,
Right.
and it made it a little clearer too, because I thought it was a little, a big deal, at first. What are we really signing? But it's really just trying to come to some sort of a common thread of understanding of how women should be treated globally. So it's,
I just want to clarify that. I have no problem with that. I think that we should, as a commission, that's our job. But, there are like out of the 30 article, about 5 or 6 articles that I have definite questions about.
Do you still-
in terms of,
do you
yes,
still have
I do.
questions?
I do have. And, we could, you could vote on it, and I could abstain or
and it could be because some of this was written so long ago. It
Right.
just seems a little out of date, maybe
Right.
the way it's written, but the understanding, I think, is what we believe it to be correct, and what we want, and what we stand for.
And I don't want to put you off. I'm just saying I think we'd come back and be in the same position.
Here's my other thing is, my question to Ms. Haddad, or whoever is going to respond to this question is this something that's a nationwide, it's going to be international, it is an international treaty, right? So is that going to be, if it becomes a recommendation, is that going to be a recommendation in a local or local level or city level? Like, if the committee, for example, writes a recommendation, is that going to be a locally enforced or, asked to be enforced locally?
I think what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, and if I'm not, please speak up, is that we would ask City Council to adopt a resolution so that Glendale becomes a CEDAW supporting
No,
city.
that's not my question. Let me maybe clarify it a
Okay.
little bit. Let's say they come, they give a recommendation to...
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying.
You
So when the committee recommends, who do they recommend to? Do they
Right,
recommend
who
to
do-
the city, the state,
exactly.
or the nation?
Oh, a state is a country in international law. Is
Right.
that what you're saying? When it says state, that's a country. So everywhere you see state parties, that does not mean California.
So they're
that
not
means
going
the
to-
United States, and we are not a state party to the treaty.
That's right.
So our role here is, do we want to have our city council pass a resolution so that Glendale is a CEDAW supporting city? And then that is a symbolic gesture to the United States that, yes, one more city is supportive, with the hope that eventually there'll be a groundswell of support from cities and counties and states such that the U.S. will eventually feel compelled to ratify the treaty, in which case the United States becomes a state party to the treaty.
So the UN deals on the national level.
But what I'm saying is, let's say they
But
give a
called state.
recommendation for this Article 10 is asking for state parties to end discrimination in education. Now, let's say they give a recommendation to a country, United States or another country, well, United States mostly. Is that going to be recommended in a state level, California state level, and then city level? Or how is that going to be implemented, the implementation of it?
So, for example, with this particular one, on the federal level, you have Title IX, okay, for sports. Equality in sports, education for girls, okay? That still is not fully implemented because we still don't have full equality for girls. So the state level takes it on, and then they pass a title that essentially says girls in the school should have these privileges. So there's a sports bill of rights that can be put up in high school locker rooms. That's a state mandate. So the state picks it up because now it's a federal law, and they make a law that applies in its state that can be more stringent than the one on the federal level, but you have to meet that federal standard first. You see how it works? So if it's recommended, so for example, for the United States, if we were going to take this one and it's at field of education, so now girls can participate in every class that they want to. So if they want to take auto shop or if they want to take home ec, they can take whatever they want. That is implemented first at the federal level because then the United States says, yeah, we like that. We're going to go ahead and this is how we're going to do it. And then the state says, well, now we have to match whatever the federal government says, and so they either just follow the federal regulation or they make a state law that supports the federal regulation. And so we see that as well in, for example, I'm thinking of...
A lot of areas in California, we give greater protection than the federal, which we are permitted to do. We can't give less, or we would be preempted by federal law.
That's right. So, for example, another one is discrimination. Like, there's job discrimination laws on the national level. California is actually more stringent with regards to what qualifies as a protected class. So, for example, you have some that we have in California that are not even recognized on the national level yet. So, something like that. We can kick it up a notch, as Emerald would say, but we're not going to do it less than the federal level.
Bam.
Right.
And I think, again, it goes back to the misconception that it's something that you need to implement and execute, and there's going to be sanctions, and I don't think it's in that same vein and level.
Okay. Then in terms, we don't have a motion on the table. Is anyone interested at this time in making a motion to recommend that City Council adopt a resolution in support of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, commonly known as CEDAW?
I would like to make that recommendation. I think that we have a city council that's extremely supportive.
Get a second, and then you make your comment.
Go ahead.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I think that we have a city council that's supportive of the commission and our goals, and I think just informing this commission, they are saying that they are for or on the side of women and for our equal rights. So I think this is in spirit, it is a great treaty, it's a great document, and I'm all for it.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I believe that it's better if we spend some more time studying this, because first of all, it's not obligatory, so we're not supposed to say yes or no at this time. So isn't it better if we just go ahead and just spend some more time on this? And because even I read that book, not all the way she read it, but I read that book, Sida, and there were some, even I have highlighted some of the articles that I was going to ask questions, but because I wasn't here and I was on vacation, I didn't have time to finish the book. It's up to you and it's up to the commission if they want to. Personally, there were other things that I was not in agreement with the items that Elizabeth was just pointing out.
Okay. My suggestion at this time would be that we have a motion on the table. Let's call it for a vote and see where we stand.
And clarify, the motion is to recommend it to the council.
Yes, thank you.
Without the discussion.
Correct.
I'm sorry, what did you mean without the discussion?
That we do it now.
We do it now, yeah.
That we vote on the motion to recommend that City Council adopt a resolution in support of CEDAW.
Ready to call the question?
Yes. Roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Katafian? Commissioner Lamel?
Yes.
Commissioner Manasarian?
No.
Commissioner Sobey?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Chair Curlin?
Yes.
Motion passes. 5-2-0.
Okay. This is one of those rare moments where we don't have consensus, so it feels a little weird. This is not the womanly way to. We're pretty good at, like, we usually discuss this, and we almost always come to consensus.
I think this is the first time that we haven't, but I think it's
I
wonderful.
really needed
Yeah.
more. I really did need more time.
And I think that's healthy because we don't want to be a rubber stamping commission where people haven't read things or don't understand things and just go, yes, 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 yes. So I think it is really important to do that.
And Commissioner Manasarian, I think, really spent a lot of time educating herself, and in return has educated us and the community. And, you know, that discussion and dialogue and different points of view, I think is really critical in our work.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a deep breath. Now, we'll probably need someone who will be our CDOT expert who could go to City Council when this gets calendared, because we'll need someone to answer those types of questions. Who's prepared? Good opportunity to get some FaceTime with the City Council if anybody is interested, and answer those questions. And we would probably partner, I would think, with Seroptimists to go and make that presentation together to urge the council to adopt a resolution. So, Sandy, would that be you or? Okay. Okay. Ms.
And it's
Haddad?
actually already tentatively on City Council's agenda for November 25th, which is the International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women.
Okay, so that's like a month and a half to bone up on it. Is there anyone who's interested? I'm sorry, November 25th?
November 25th, 6 p.m.
Okay. Is that the week after Thanksgiving?
No, it's the Tuesday before
The
Thanksgiving.
Tuesday before, okay, so that's significant to you if anyone travels. Okay, is there anyone who would be interested in doing that, making that presentation or being available to partner with Ms. Schultz? Commissioner Walker, are you interested?
Sure.
I think you'd represent us very well. Oh. From the audience, we have you will not be available. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'll be there in spirit, just like the CDOT.
Okay, I thought you'd be great.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
Okay, is there anyone else who would be interested? Okay, then think about it, and we still have some time. And remember, if you can tab your little book and highlight it so you have quick access and,
And I think we really want to encourage the public as well to, if they have any questions, similar concerns or whatever, to email us those questions so that we know them beforehand, and we'd like to be able to personally address those issues.
Well, and that would also prepare whoever is there at City Council for those questions in case they come up that night.
And if anybody Googles CEDAW, which is CEDAW, it's usually all caps, Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, you can find the text really easily and a lot of discussion about it in various sites, as well as the official UN site. Okay, very good. Okay, next item on the agenda. Something a little lighter.
7A2, consideration and discussion of Jewels of Glendale task lead responsibilities and assignments, with a motion to appoint task lead assignments for the Jewels of Glendale 2008.
Okay.
With an update from the co-chairs, right?
Okay. And Commissioners Lamel and Walker have graciously stepped up to be our leads. Do you want to, either of you want to make a presentation about what you will need and what the sort of tasks to be assigned are?
And I think at this point what we want to do is update you on several of the key components of the Jewels of Glendale, particularly where we are in terms of the venue, what different sites we're looking at. And at this point we're trying to get quotations from several places, and we're also hoping that Embassy Suites is going to be available soon, but again, we don't know whether that's going to be feasible for March 2009. So that's where we are. We've asked, some hotels, some, local banquet halls, and we're going to be comparing, and we want to make it really cost effective, keep it under $30, $25 inclusive. So that's where we are, unless the commission wants to recommend, increasing the price or decreasing it. That's the ballpark that we're working on.
Yes, we've been able to get a few quotes that it's in the $25 all-inclusive full menu. And once we do a site visit and tasting, we'll make a decision on that, hopefully within the next 10 days.
Yeah,
Great.
And we are looking at the date that was suggested, March the 26th, I think it is, the last Thursday in the month. We want to make sure that the silent auction is easily accessible and pretty much where our attendees will have no choice but to participate. So we want to make that all in the same room if possible. And we found a few places that will allow that. We're looking forward to getting the nomination form out pretty soon. And how would that be handled? Is that going to be just based on our website, or will we be distributing that individually?
Usually also distribute it to everybody so you can spread it out to the community.
Great.
So it will be available on the website and then e-blasted. Yeah.
And then continue to announce it as you report each month during the period that it's open, and show what it looks like and how it can be located electronically.
And we
News press, get some.
Yes, we're going to start working on some press releases, media advisories, as each element is unveiled, especially when we have a keynote speaker and an MC. And understand there's another list that we need to look at to see what would you like to have on the program. And we'd like to also invite the past jewels to come to the event. Maybe have some sort of a wall of fame or something, where we can have posters of those that we've honored in the last few years, because this will be our 5th. So we want to make that a special event, especially since it is the 5th anniversary of the commission itself. So we want to combine the two together and make it a special affair that we hope to increase the numbers by maybe another 100 people. We want everyone to mark their calendars, and sometime March 26th is the date that we're looking for lunch.
What day is it?
It's a Thursday afternoon.
So consider this your save the date.
Save the date. We have a beautiful save the date card that Commissioner Walker designed, and hopefully we'll be able to show that on the screen as well. No? Okay. Well, you'll see that in the Glendale News Press and various places, the library and other public venues that will have the save the date.
And I think we're also making headway in terms of the MC and also some of the potential guest speakers. We've gotten really good recommendations from other commissioners, and Commissioner Lamel and I, have also other potential contacts. So we're excited about bringing in somebody who's really going to bring spark to the event.
We hope our student commissioners will help with recruiting volunteers.
We'll have new students then.
Okay, and we still like the previous
I'm still going to
ones.
help out.
We still want you to be part of the family.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that, Elaine.
Great. Okay, so then the task appointments. Do you want to go through those?
Okay, we want to be able to divide the different tasks and get, as we've done in the past, to get a head commissioner lead task for those things. Okay, anyone wants to start volunteering?
Well, I was going to volunteer for the speaker talent lead.
Okay, we can work together on that. Okay.
And what we'll do is give you some of the recommendations that we have, the list.
Yes.
And we have an ask out already, so coordinate with Ms. Haddad as to the status of that.
Okay, anyone for the sponsorship lead?
I'll work
Burials first.
I'll work on silent auction.
Oh, you do silent auction?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll help out on that as well.
Okay.
In the area of volunteers, who would like to take the lead on that getting some volunteers.
You want to do that?
Yeah, I can work on that, sure.
Maybe volunteer recruitment.
Okay.
What was that?
Commissioner
Volunteer.
Katafian is going to assist with volunteer.
Okay.
Since I was looking up the Save the Date flyer, if you could tell me what the first one was, I'm sorry for the request. What was the first volunteer for?
Speaker and talent lead, Commissioner Devine.
Okay.
And did you get the rest?
No.
So,
Volunteer.
silent auction. Okay. So we're swag and giveaways and sponsorships.
So, Ms. Haddad, if you can share with us the speaker and talent list you may have compiled to Commissioner Devine and myself and Commissioner Walker.
I'll work on swag also.
Okay. But Chair Curlin, you're already doing that.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to take the lead for swag with the able assistance of Chair Curlin?
See, I'm bad at sponsorships, so I have to.
I have to step up to help where I can.
Well, we can certainly provide some leads, whoever would like to chair it, but I can give you some leads of where we can get some
we already
giveaways.
started listing some corporate sponsors. Okay. I will help with the swag,
yeah, I was
because
just
I
gonna
did this last time.
Okay.
I'll assist Commissioner Walker on that, swag.
Okay, yeah. So we have sponsorship lead who would like to take that.
Now, I read that we are expected to have at least 5 major sponsors each. So it's just a matter of someone just...
just coordinating it.
record of that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Menazir.
And sort of review the package, make sure the levels are appropriate, make sure that the materials are prepared and updated, that they get distributed to us. And in addition to the 5 that we all get, ideally to also pursue new sponsorship leads and hit up the old lists.
Tier 1 and Tier 2 sponsors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we put a deadline on when their sponsorship package will be ready? Because we really need to get it out.
So have some time.
I would say before November 1st, at least start to send it out to our different leads.
Who did it last year? Who was the lead?
I was
You
the
actually
Jules
were,
lead, but
Yeah, but,
So we sort of, everybody chipped in.
okay.
On what?
Because I need sponsorship, yeah.
So the letter, we just need to review it and update it? Okay.
Okay, so in terms of concrete timelines, by the next meeting, we will be solidifying the venue and the speakers and the MCs. That would be Chair Lamel and I. We'd also need sponsorship package, the nomination forms, auction forms, maybe Ms. Haddad by...
November 1st is fine.
Okay, great. That's good that we have a time frame. And I will be updating the Save the Date flyer.
did you want to show that, Ms. Haddad?
It's available if we can just cut to the screen there. I wonder if it shows up properly because of the white.
Do you need to dim the lights?
GTV6, I wonder. Yeah, I don't know if it's very visible for folks who are watching at home, but that's an idea of the general design that Commissioner Walker did. Not really legible on TV. Is it?
But it's really nice in real color.
It is, it's really pretty.
Beautiful.
March 26th.
Yes, March 26th. Gotta add
Commissioner
that.
For now,
Walker, could
anyway,
you-
right?
Commissioner Walker, could you tell us what those colors are so we know what their fall colors, but what are
The
they?
colors are more towards like spring, summer, the greens. There's also blue, different shades of green, chartreuse, limes, and then the blues. And then what I've done was to also include certain graphic elements like the jewels there. Those are like crystals, so jewels of Glendale. And had to do those sparkles. So the glittery thing to kind of like denote more, the jewels of Glendale, really celebrating.
It's like a pin. Looks
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
lapel pin.
Mhm.
Very beautiful.
I think we're off to a good start.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. It's good to have some fresh ideas, so that's good. Okay, our next item on the agenda is 7A3, consideration and discussion of the student ex officio search and committee appointments for 2008 to 2009, and an accompanying motion appointing committee members to the student ex officio appointment committee. So if you look at the report Ms. Haddad prepared, we have received 3 applications already. Is our period closed of application?
It was closed. We can reopen it if you'd like to open it up again.
Okay, so we have 3 for review within the period, and staff is requesting the appointment of 2 of us to be on the student screening and selection committee. And can you tell us what that usually entails? Do you meet and discuss based on the applications and then interview, or how does it work?
It's been handled various ways over the past 4 years, but what we have sort of streamlined it to is the packets are sent out and distributed to everybody so they get a chance to review it. Generally speaking, the committee has tried to interview, if not the top 3, then sometimes we've had up to 6 or 7 interviews, I think, at one point. So it's really up to the committee's discretion how many interviews they do. With a group this small, they could actually just interview all of the girls. I know they're anxious. They've turned in their applications and they're ready and raring to go. So our student commissioners have put in their full year and then some. So I'm sure they're ready to move on to a different capacity of volunteership with the commission, and then we can. Did you like that, Commissioner Punlaki? You're not going to get away from us?
Part of the family.
Right. We're not letting you go.
All that volunteer recruitment and the silent auction and...
Be there. I don't have school Thursdays.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
And our Jewels of Glendale is Thursday.
Yes, that's it. With a few of your good friends, Commissioner Kivanian, the silent auction expert. Okay, and so this would come back to our November meeting with a recommendation as to the 2 students to be appointed.
Actually, for the past 3 years, the committee's been entitled to go ahead and appoint, and they just introduce and they sit at their first meeting after they're appointed.
Okay, perfect. So, given that time frame, which means between now and November, you would read the applications, do the interviews, and make the selection. Is there anyone who's interested in being one of the 2?
I'm just thinking, Chair Kerlin, that if we can extend maybe the application, because we only have 3 and I'd hate for the other one to not get, chosen. Okay, because you only have to choose 2, right? So maybe broaden it and, see if we can get more interest in the fact that if we get more applications, it's also more awareness about what we do here in the commission. So that's a suggestion.
We can certainly do that. Is there a time frame you think that would work so that we still would be prepared by the November meeting to begin the term? Let's see, what are we today? We're October 13th.
Extended end of the month, like 2 weeks at least.
What's our November meeting date?
Yeah.
The November meeting date is the 10th.
Okay.
How was the outreach conducted for these applications?
Letters are sent to, we have a standard list of all the schools in Glendale and actually in Burbank, and we do private schools and public schools as well.
Okay.
I think we need personal recruitment, too.
I think that's probably the more effective way of reaching people. I also feel like 2 weeks probably isn't long enough. If you want to extend it, maybe we do it till the first week of November.
Sure.
And then if the committee wants to meet immediately preceding the commission meeting, and then the girls would be ready to start serving, or the students would be ready to start serving as of the 10th.
What are you saying? They would find out that day that they're starting?
No, they would find out the week before, so the interview would be done the week before.
Okay, that seems pretty reasonable.
In reality, the interviews and the choosing can be done in one day.
In one day.
So once you get your nominees, your applicants, it's one day.
Mm-hmm.
So that still leaves you still have a full week and a couple extra days before the commission meeting. Okay, then, do we need a motion to extend our application deadline till October 31st, 2008?
I just want to make one suggestion. Can we target like different student organizations, like the president, vice president of those organizations, to see if they know someone within their membership that they could recommend, or them themselves? Because if it's going to maybe a counselor or principal, maybe it's not getting to the the different member organizations in the different high schools.
Students themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
The question was, could we give it to the heads of student organizations? I don't have contacts that deep at the schools. I don't know the organizations. I don't know where to start in terms of presidents. So unless maybe we can get the students then involved in giving us names of people, and then maybe if I email it to the students, then they could email it to their contacts at the campuses. That would work better.
I have a suggestion. You could probably go through ASBs of high school, the ASB presidents of all 4 high schools, and contact them directly and have them announce it in their school.
So most of that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Vice Chair, you had a comment?
Let me ask Commissioner Penlocki, do they still have, I remember when I was teaching, all the president of the ASB, the student government, and all the presidents of the clubs used to have a special class period where they met, student government met. Is that still the case? Or?
I think government meets, but like individual organizations like UNICEF or Kiwanis don't meet. They meet during lunch, but they do have an advisor that takes over.
But did their presidents are not involved in the student body
No, they're
meeting,
not.
the
It's
student government?
individual students from the school that make up the club.
Okay.
Can you help Ms.
I can help
Haddad
out.
with a list of who we need to target?
I know at Glendale High School, it's Mary Hazlett, right, who is is the student advisor for ASB.
And usually they have names on the website who the advisor is for the certain club, and it's just the name and the email address is there. I can help out with that.
That'd be really great. Thank you.
And then you can do it by email, which would be great, and do it as an attachment, and then it can be sent electronically to target people. So that's probably
One
the
day I'll
most
learn how to
efficient.
IM it or even text it.
Nah. Okay, that would be great. So why don't we do that? Do we need a motion, Ms. Varpetian?
You do, because the dates were established by resolution, so you do want to
Okay.
extend that time.
Let's have a motion then to extend our application period until October 31st, 2008, with an eye towards getting more applications, and it has nothing to do with the value of any received, since we don't even know what those are. So just a suggestion to broaden the pool.
I so move.
Okay, and is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? Is there unanimous consent then to extend the period?
Right.
Yes. Okay, great. And then we have the item still on the agenda, which is the appointment of 2 people to be on the Student Screening and Selection Committee. Is anyone interested in being one of the 2 for the student selection?
I'll volunteer for that.
Okay, great. Okay, very good. So we have Commissioner Walker and Commissioner Sobey. And do we need a motion is there a motion to appoint Commissioners Walker and Sobey to the Student Screening and Selection Committee?
I so move.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Is there unanimous consent to appoint those 2 commissioners?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is agenda item 7A4, the CSW Master Calendar of Events, with a motion to provide direction regarding the master calendar.
I did note we don't have our film on the 17th. Is that still a go?
It's still a go, and actually now it's been confirmed we'll be showing Commissioner Sobey's blockbuster, Desperately Seeking Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
I've gotten calls, by the way, from Beatle heads everywhere.
Great.
Yeah.
And I've let my classes all know they're coming for extra credit.
Okay, so while we're on that, it's on the 17th?
On the 17th, this Friday night, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Kreider Hall on the college campus, KREIDER.
TER, according to this flyer.
Oh, yeah, I just got an email from GCC today, though. It's DER.
Oh, okay.
And the parking is free. It's available in Lot A, which is off of Mountain and Verdugo. And then you just, the campus can be a little intimidating if you're not familiar with it, but you're actually parking in staff parking. If you come to the end of the parking lot A, you just walk down the hall and you walk directly into San Rafael, which is where Kreider Hall is located.
There'll be some sort of signage?
Yes.
Great.
I can't find my way around.
And there are maps throughout the campus.
And there are maps online, too.
There are maps online
You
for
can
the
sort of
campus.
highlight your route.
Balloons.
So will there be discussion after that, Commissioner
Yes.
Toby? Wonderful.
Okay, and is there a fee, or is that free?
It's open to the public for free. However, we'll be asking for a suggested donation of $10 or $20, whatever people are willing to give to support it and offset the cost of renting the hall. So,
Great.
And will there be opportunity for autographs from Commissioner Sobey?
will you bring your own copy? Will you have
Amazon? Well, I can have a few extras.
you have-
Sure.
yeah,
Be good.
sure.
Copies
of the DVD.
Okay. Uh-huh. And there's an accompanying Monopoly set, too, from about the Beatles.
Really?
Really?
Well, not with me,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's a complimentary set.
We're like, wow, what a merchandiser. Who knew?
I'm our manager.
That's great. Okay, good, very good. Okay, so we still have in October our 17th event, and then on the 24th, we have our candlelight vigil against violence at the Alex Theater, which will be great. And we will have our Survivor Stories panel.
It's sort of a blend of the Honoring Our Stories as well as the Empowering Immigrant Women panel. So we have legal representation, we have an advocate, we have hopefully a survivor if I can get one secured.
Okay, and what is the time for the candlelight vigil on the 24th?
It's 6:30 to 8:30. 6:30 to 7:30 is the panel discussion. 7:30 begins the vigil against violence.
Okay, very good. Okay, and then are there any other changes, additions to the calendar? Okay, is there a motion to approve the calendar with the addition of the 17th?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there unanimous consent?
Yes.
Okay, the calendar is approved. Next item on the agenda, please.
Agenda item 7B1, which is an update on the Strategic Planning Committee action reports of September and October 2008. The strategic plan initially was intended to come to the commission in parts, and actually the commission ended up assigning it to a committee. And that committee met and went over sort of the larger framework of the strategic plan and how they were going to start revising it and amending it to fit better within the framework of what the commission is actually doing in terms of work under the umbrella of the three major focuses of the commission, which is women's leadership and political participation, economic self-sufficiency and financial literacy, and women's health, including violence against women, and raising awareness and prevention efforts there. So attached to the report is the initial sort of breakdown of the commission had committees attached to strategic aims, which had goals and then had activities. This is the higher level of the document. This is sort of the higher level perspective on it, which lists the strategic aim. They're not now necessarily connected to a committee because the committee structure has been shifted since the establishment of that strategic plan for the first time around. Second time around, we're doing more task-based assignments for work like the Jewels Committee that takes up one particular limited time frame task. They're more ad hoc committees that are working. But the strategic aim remains, and what has happened is that they've become incorporated as part and parcel of every task committee that gets assigned to a job. The goals have also been refined, some have been eliminated, some have been adjusted to more specifically reflect the goals that the commission has in terms of what it wants to do. So, for example, in the first strategic aim, which is strategic planning, meaning that we want to lay out an effective and efficacious way to do the commission's work that they've set out for themselves under those three different rubrics. One of the ideas is that the higher level goal is that the commission wants to work more effectively. So one incredibly underutilized resource the commission has at its disposal has been our student ex officio commissioners. And what this particular goal would lead to is an activity that would look and examine how have the student commissioners been utilized, how are they allowed to bring their talents to bear on the different projects, and what are ways to make them more effective in their roles so that the commission as a whole works more effectively and efficaciously for the community as a larger community. So that would be one example of how those goals get translated into an activity. So to go through some of the ones that are newer, you'll notice that increasing the efficacy of the CSW is a new one. The build alliances and collaborate with city council, city boards and commissions was existing, but it was tweaked to include city council as an explicit sort of idea that the commissioners all should be meeting one-on-one with different council members and developing relationships to find out directly, sort of, so to speak, from the horse's mouth, what's the idea, what's interesting to council right now? How can the commission work within its framework in ways that are relevant to city council, just to be more attentive and responsive to what the council is looking for out of the commission? Also, a new one, which sort of builds on the same idea, is something that the Commission has been very actively doing, which is building relationships with local businesses, but that wasn't explicitly included in the first go-round. There wasn't really a framework for that. So we have been doing that, working very closely with Downtown Glendale Merchants Association. So that's incorporated, and hopefully we'll be expanding to Adams Square and Montrose Shopping Park as partners. As the Commission grows in its work, we also want to grow in our reach and community collaborations and networks. So that's another example of another one. Another example of a new goal that was listed here by the committee was to increase the number and quality of avenues to access regarding information about information that's relevant to women. So, for example, the website is there. We also maybe want to look at having a quarterly newsletter or an annual newsletter, something that can go up there that really speaks to what the Commission's work has been doing. Maybe it's quarterly, we highlight, or biannual, you highlight April in one, and you highlight October in the next, and then you talk about all the different things that are going on. Maybe a special one for the special focus of the Commission. I know Commissioner Walker, this is sort of her thing, is communication. We want to get out there and reach people, so a way of doing that. And then resource development, I think the volunteer recruitment and retention plan that's now part of the Jewels, that was a suggestion of Commissioner Kivanian's, would be a really excellent way to utilize one of the most precious resources we have. Isn't just capital, and it's not just things, it's people. And so how do we bring and develop relationships with people to come and benefit the community as a larger? So the emphasis on volunteership has been a very strong one for Vice Chair Devine since her appointment to the Commission. So this actually is a way to tie. It's a sort of a win-win thing. You get people who are interested in philanthropy, interested in volunteership, and give them opportunities to provide service, and then at the same time develop a good resource for the Commission. So this is sort of the idea that the committee is going for. We'll be bringing back, not in November, but probably December, a rough draft of the resource development activities and refinements that the committee works on, and then in January to bring back a rough draft of the entire strategic plan to go to Council.
Very good.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
yes, and I can add a few more. In the strategic plan, to go first section, we also added, because of Commissioner Walker's desire for accountability and transparency, we've incorporated evaluation criteria and tools in our program design. Yes, so we're sure that we do that every single program that we have. Another is that we had we changed the name. It used to be community outreach, and now it's going to just be communication. But we also added not only to build alliances and collaborate with community-based organizations, but we also added schools, because we feel that that's very important, that the Commission partner and work with the schools as much as we can, which we've been doing in the past, but it really hasn't been in our plan. Well,
and including the comprehensive marketing strategies, which speaks to the expertise of several of the members of the Commission at this point. So that was, I think, a new one, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and under resource development, we kind of tweaked that. The first one, it formerly was develop options, and we've changed that to explore, so that we can maybe prioritize these explorations into sponsorships, and I guess that was another tweaking we did as well. Develop public-private partnerships to enhance sponsorships, so that we can actually go out and try to convince and recruit sponsors for our program, so that we have an ongoing revenue stream. Yes, revenue stream. Thank you. Exactly. So that's the broad stroke that we did, and we hope that you're satisfied with our work. And if you have anything to add, we try to put in all of your recommendations that we got. We did our best to do that, and I hope that we've done that.
Next item on the agenda. Agenda item 7B2, an update on Dollars and Cents Salon, which took place on September 24th.
It was actually an excellent salon. 4 CPAs volunteered their time, and I just want to take a moment to thank each one of them for doing that, because I know some of them were coming in from a pretty long distance. Stephen Dubin of Encino, Margot Katz of Sherman Oaks, Rebecca Robbins of Stevenson Ranch, and Mike Velasquez of our very own Mike Velasquez from Glendale here, all came and gave an excellent and very densely packed information-filled hour and a half on what to do in case of disasters in your own life. So we had information on insurance, we had information on money management and debt management, what to do if you're facing divorce or potential for divorce, and then also how to deal with death. And we had a very long, hour-long, last year's seminar was on estate planning, including wills, and this sort of just touched on that. Basically, it wasn't as in-depth as last year, but it was one component of what to do if. So we did receive about 40% of the evaluations back, and it's like looking at a straight A student's report card. Really, virtually all of the responses came in the top third of the responses that were possible. So people were very happy. The critiques, I think, were sort of incidental, and there was nothing really about the substance of the thing. Just air conditioning, it was too cold, and then suggestions for improvement. Just give us more time, because really we could have done an hour and a half on each one of those topics. So, and the budgetary numbers come back. Actually, the expense that has been budgeted for salons has been $250 apiece. We spent $158 on refreshments for that.
Okay, great. Did you have a comment?
I was just going to say that Commissioner Curlin, you and Commissioner Manasarian and I were there, and it was a really good group of people. The speakers were fabulous, and it was just really a fine event, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this every year. It's a great program.
I agree with Vice Chair Devine. It was really, really educational, and I learned a lot of things. Thank you.
Good. That's what we're here to do. Okay, the next item on our agenda is agenda item 7B3, an update on program development for Girls on the Run. You heard a little bit about the launch from the on the Verdugo Woodlands chapter here from the two board members, Ms. Sadlin and Dr. Rauscher. What I wanted to do is just to let you know that the Commission has actually also connected them with different funding streams. Initially, we were going to apply on behalf of them to find sponsorships for the girls who couldn't afford it. And we heard tonight about 30% of the girls who attend aren't able to pay the full fee. It should be a needs-based scholarship, and that's the way the Girls on the Run works. What we found, though, was the grant criteria wouldn't allow us to submit on behalf of them, so we just connected them with the funding source, and we're looking to do that with, I know another club is very interested in supporting them. So we just want to keep on supporting them and building relationships. I've spoken to coaches at Wilson and also at R.D. White, and I know, Chair Curlin, you've spoken with the principal at Glen Oaks Elementary, so I think we're on the right path, at least to expansion to at least 4 different sites in Glendale by spring. And I want to say thank you to Ms. Haddad, who worked on that grant on our behalf before realizing sort of at the last minute that we were not the appropriate party to submit it. And I think that's huge that she was willing to turn that over for signature of another organization so that they can benefit essentially from her work or our work, but because it's in the interest of us to bring this program to Glendale and something we want to see happen. So thank you for your work. Okay. The next item on our agenda is item 8, Commissioner and Staff Comments. Shall we just start with Commissioner Katafian? Do you have any comments this evening?
Yes. Today's meeting was quite long, and it was very rich with various types of topics, especially the people who came over here and presented themselves and various programs that we have it in the city or even in neighborhood cities, which was very informative. And for our meetings and the agenda, even though we had little time to go on with it, but still it was good. We spent more time to analyze various topics that we were supposed to, and a very fruitful meeting, in my opinion.
Commissioner Lamel, any comments this evening?
I'd just like to say that I was very happy to hear about the various programs. on Domestic Violence Project, as well as the one book. But most importantly, the breast center information, because it says Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the reason for most of our pink today. We really want to stress to women and girls to be aware of the health concerns that there are, especially when it surrounds breast cancer.
Commissioner Devine?
Well, this was a very busy month in the city of Glendale. We're awfully fortunate to have so many great events to go to, and I just wanted to mention a few of them. First one was Relay for Life. It was fun. It was organized. I want to congratulate Dave Ahern and Mari Abrams. They raised upwards of $125,000 for the American Cancer Society. Congratulations and job well done. I attended the Leadership Circle. That was our first meeting with the Rosie Goes to Wall Street alum, and the guest speaker was Constantino Deli, who wrote The Way, which deals with live your dreams. And Commissioners, when the next time this is scheduled on a Saturday, you must go for the 2 hours. Try to make time for it. He was fabulous. The girls were so interested and interesting, and they wanted to talk about their problems and what they were going through at school, and they bonded with each other. And I think, Melina Sardar was there, and who else was there?
Kathy Piametti.
Yes, Kathy was there, and Aliza. Yes, and it was fabulous and motivational for the girls, and we need mentors for these kids because they really need them and they want them, and so I hope to see the next one, more commissioners there and possibly more mentors. It's great. It was terrific. Anything else? Did you want
On that note, this month's gathering will be at the Vigil Against Violence, so the girls will be coming there.
Right. And I also attended the Firemen's Award Luncheon, and it was really wonderful, and there was a very illuminating award given to a whole crew of firemen, paramedics, hospital workers. It took about 20 people to save one life. And it was former Chief Biggs, and it was it was fabulous. Is that correct, Lucy?
Chief Hens, Richard Hens.
Oh, Richard Hens. And it was amazing to see all the people that it took to save his life when his heart stopped. And they all were there and received an award. This was a great event. And the Spar Heights Forum was terrific. Ready, Set, Vote. We were all there, and terrific. I have 2 messages for everybody out there. Get your mammogram, and don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote.
Commissioner Manasarian?
Sure. I also attended the Ready, Set, Vote. It was wonderful. We learned a lot about propositions, and I really strongly encourage everyone to attend next year, if not, any year this is offered, because I learned so much about the propositions and a lot of details that I didn't know about. So it was very informative. And also I attended the American Armenian Chamber Award for Women of the Year, and I wanted to congratulate all the women. 8 women received awards, and I was very honored to be there and witness that. Also, I wanted to make an announcement regarding the City of Glendale, Gapon Sister City Association. Glendale Gapon Sister City will be having a function at Alex Theater on October 22nd, Wednesday, October 22nd. And it's free admission. I'd like to encourage everyone to attend. It's going to be a great program. And that's about it. Thank you.
Mr. Stobie, any comments this evening?
Just that it is very womanly to agree and have consensus, but it's also very womanly to invite divergent opinions. And I think that's so key, that we be open to our varied opinions. That's so necessary. Proven that. So I just want to emphasize that.
Thank you.
And also related to the voter education panel, we want to thank the League of Women Voters for co-sponsoring this event. It was really opening to really listen to the different pros and cons, and without them being biased towards, either pros or cons. And then I also want to thank Fast Frame for doing the artist reception. Arts is Healing program. The manager there is Jason, and the owner is Vicky, I believe, Ms. Haddad. Yes, And they were really wonderful in hosting this event. And artist Linda Turnoir was there. And if you haven't had the chance to visit the artist's work, it's still there up to October 31st. So Fast Frames, 112 North Brand Boulevard. Okay.
That actually features the work of Diane Behrens, Olivia
Yes.
Rodriguez from the LA County Commission for Women, Suzanne Saul, Linda Turnoir, and Jackie Steimke, who's a resident here in Glendale.
And if you do attend, please sign in so that we know that you came for the event.
Exactly. And then also last October 8th, the Filipino American Business Association of Glendale, we had our mixer at the Pacific BMW, and we want to thank Mr. Lam and Mr. Lee for their generosity in offering their showroom for the mixer, and specifically thanking the Director of Redevelopment, Mr. Lazanfame, and Councilman Weaver, and Captain Palmer from the Glendale Police Force for giving us a really good landscape of the different aspects of the city, and it was really well attended. FABAG, or the Filipino American Business Association of Glendale, is partnering with For You Network, and our very own Commissioner Lamel here is the director of that network group, and we're having a meeting and also social mixer fall harvest mixer October 30th at Color Me Mine here in Montrose, and everyone's invited to that event. And lastly, Thursday, don't forget the Glendale Chamber of Commerce is hosting, I think, a mixer for the different ethnic chambers of commerce, the Hispanic, the Armenian, Filipino, and so on. And it's co-sponsored by Hilton, only $10, and it's a wonderful opportunity to network with the various chambers of commerce.
I guess it's my last month. I'm sad that Commissioner Kivanian is not here with me to end our term, but I get a little teary-eyed. It's hard to be a part of a family that really cares, and you learn so many lifelong experiences in this commission, and I speak on behalf of Commissioner Kivanian and I for everything you guys do, and it's so awesome to be part of a commission with powerful and very smart women, and we've learned so much. We just wanted to thank you all. And AIDS Walk is this Sunday, and I hope you guys can all register. That's about it. Sorry.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
And
You've been definitely miss them.
Your energy, your enthusiasm, you were a breath of fresh air over the last year. I know you helped whenever you could and brought people to our events and your friends and gave us a youthful perspective and had good ideas and good questions. And you're not going far, and we're not letting you get away.
Go to Northridge.
You'll still be part of our family.
It makes me cry. Still person.
What I'd like to say is, with respect to the LA County Bar Association Domestic Violence Project, I think that maybe that's a link we would want to have in terms of communication on our website. So if people are looking for resources, if they've been a victim, I know people always want to know, how do you get a restraining order, where do you go? If we could direct them somewhere, either if there is a page for the DV project, or if not, that we create something that tells them their contact information and where the locations are, so that our Glendale residents know how to be served at the Pasadena courthouse. I think that would be really good. And with respect to CEDA, in the event that we left the impression that this is very controversial or whatever, I did want to mention a couple of the organizations. There are numerous, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of organizations that are in support of CEDA, and these include groups such as the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, the American Association of University Women, the American Bar Association, the Business and Professional Women, the United States chapter, the Humane Society, the League of Women Voters of the United States, the National Association of Women Lawyers, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the Sierra Club, the Seroptimus International of the Americas, and the YWCA of the United States of America. So we're in good company to sign on in support of CEDA. And while I commented that this isn't womanly, I certainly don't mean, it's just that for us, we usually have consensus. And we do always invite diversity of opinion and dissension, and I think that is healthy. And it, forces us to not become a rubber stamping commission, which I don't think we should be. I think we should critically examine those items that come before us and make an educated and intelligent decision, especially when it's a recommendation that we're sending on to the City Council. So thank you for making us stop and explain and have a discussion and go through some of the items about which you had questions or concern. Any comments from staff or Ms. Varpetian or Ms. Haddad?
Just a couple. One, to thank the student commissioners for all of their work. The silent auction, really, Susie K. Vanyan has just done an amazing job with that. And Elaine, you have been really a spark on the commission. You've got so many great ideas. You're so committed. Your work with Friends Across Borders really just set the bar for Glendale High School, and we're very proud that you had time to volunteer with us, and we're so grateful that we got to know you over the past year. And we're not letting you go. Just you don't need to get so teary. We're keeping you here.
It's just sad to not sit with you guys.
You're welcome to attend. We meet every second Monday.
So I went off.
You can staff our tables.
Right there. Right here.
Yeah, that's
Right.
your special chair. That I just wanted to give a word of congratulations to our very own Women of Business Award winner, Commissioner Sobey. I didn't get a chance to tell you congratulations last night.
forgot.
That was all for me.
Okay.
Oh, and a reminder about our event on this Friday, the 17th.
Our movie.
Our movie. Desperately Seeking Paul McCartney.
All right. With that, we are adjourned. It is 9:26. Thank you, everyone.